Chapter 319. Boom, rumble, the entire martial arts field shook. Even with the existence of the barrier, the martial arts field shook thrice. It had to be said that the battle between Su Mo and Guan Xiong was extremely powerful. Looking again, the two combatants were both sent flying. Otherwise, they would be affected the most. However, the martial arts field had limited space. Both of them had retreated to the edge of the barrier. There was no way out. Block. Sumo and Guan Xiong both activated their defenses. Boom, bang bang. Unfortunately, the aftermath of the attack was too strong. The power of ice and fire didn't cancel each other out, but fused together, producing a greater power. That power was far beyond the ordinary immortal force. The entire martial arts field kept exploding. The first to bear the brunt were, of course, Sumo and Guan Xiong. At that moment, each of them was backed by the barrier and had no way to escape. They were surrounded by a tyrannical aura. The wind blades never stopped and the explosions never stopped. At this time, several cultivators of the northern cold city stopped to watch. They also felt the shock just now. What's wrong with the third martial arts field? Are they setting off fireworks? Nonsense. Why would they set off fireworks? That's clearly the fire caused by the explosion of spiritual energy. That's not small. It seems to have reached the power of the mid-stage immortal. Are there two mid-stage immortal cultivators fighting? But the third martial arts field doesn't allow mid-stage immortal cultivators to practice. It's hard to say. I seem to have seen Miss take Guan Xiong inside today. Everyone was shocked, but at the same time they understood. Thus, everyone shook their heads with a profound meaning. Sigh. Poor Guan Xiong, Miss is too ruthless. Guan Xiong's body would be smashed to pieces if he continued to fight like this. Even an immortal cultivator can't take it. I think it's hard. But I think it's okay. It's not a secret that Miss likes Guan Xiong. You see, every time she hits him, doesn't she hold back? Then, Guan Xiong's realm will increase. If she can beat me and increase my realm, I'm willing. A young cultivator was actually envious of being beaten. Several others laughed. In your dreams, beating was a sign of affection, and scolding was a sign of love. If it were you, eldest Miss would really beat you to death. In our northern chill city, no one else has that kind of treatment except for that damn fatty. You think everyone is willing to hit you when you're the young mistress. Sigh. That's true. The young cultivator let out a long sigh. Being beaten by the big miss is also something I can't ask for. They chatted and laughed as they walked away. The training field did not collapse, and the young mistress was inside, so she was definitely fine. At this time, only the area in front of Miao Long was safe and sound. No matter how violent the spiritual energy outside was, it was a beautiful day here. A power of that level couldn't even get close to her. Two idiots. Miao Long looked at Guan Xiong and Sumo with an unfriendly expression. At this moment, the two of them were already injured in the battle because they couldn't completely block that tyrannical aura. However, Miao Long did not expect the battle between the two of them to be able to unleash such power. Guan Xiong was at the early stage of the undead realm. According to the classification of the three realms, he should be at the first or second stage of the true immortal realm. His body was already immortal, so even if he was injured, it would automatically heal itself. However, at this moment, Guan Xiong was in a miserable state, because the explosions were too frequent. In fact, Guan Xiong had a Dharma treasure that could withstand such an attack, but he didn't dare to take it out. He knew that today's battle must have been instigated by the big Mississippi. Even though Sumo also wanted to beat him up, Guan Xiong didn't care. When he was caught just now, he felt that the big miss was not in a good mood. If he was beaten up, it would be good to appease the big Mississippi, otherwise he would probably be beaten up again in the next 2 days. Poor Guan Xiong, of course, didn't dare to take out his Dharma treasure. Ah! Ouch! Guan Xiong screamed miserably. His body was a bloody mess. He didn't deliberately repair his body, letting the flesh and blood fly everywhere. He wouldn't die anyway. Of course, he protected his internal organs and divine soul. Big Miss, help! Big Miss, I know I was wrong. Guan Xiong had already said these words without thinking. Who cares if he was wrong or not? Anyway, he wouldn't suffer a loss if he spoke softly. The cultivators outside the training field hadn't gone far yet. They looked at each other when they heard Guan Xiong's words. There was a look of horror in their eyes. Guan Xiong is so pitiful. Who would dare to marry such a wife? Violent Queen. Sigh, the two most terrifying women in Beihan City. One is heartless, the other is violent. Hearing Guan Xiong's cries, the cultivators were afraid of causing trouble, so they immediately disappeared. On the other side of the training field, Sumo wasn't any better. He didn't expect that his punch would be like this. Of course, Sumo could take out the puppets to block everything. However, seeing that Guan Xiong didn't take out his Dharma treasure, he didn't do anything else. Even though he was only at the peak of the divine tribulation, he had the bones of immortality. If he took out his Dharma treasure, it would mean that he was no match for Guan Xiong. More importantly, Sumo wanted to reduce his use of the puppets as much as possible. Instead, he wanted to temper himself. Therefore, Sumo didn't summon the puppets, but he had been trying his best to resist the explosion of spirit chi. However, his Dharma spells were constantly being destroyed by the undying force. By then, Sumo's body had completely cracked, and blood was flowing out like a fountain. However, his body was emitting a faint azure light, and his aura was much stronger than Guan Xiong's. Guan Xiong kept getting beaten, while Sumo kept resisting. That was the difference between the two of them. Miao Longer looked at them coldly, and he couldn't help but feel angry. He had already seen through Guan Xiong's thoughts. Although Guan Xiong was screaming miserably, he was actually fine. That time, he didn't scream when he hit him. At the same time, he thought that Guan Xiong must have sensed that he was angry just now, so he wanted him to calm down. Damn fatty! Miao Longer cursed in his mind, but he still felt a trace of sweetness. This guy had been beaten up by him since he was a child, but he had never resisted. How infuriating! A woman's mind. Guan Xiong really didn't understand. However, Miao Longer narrowed his eyes. Sumo and Guan Xiong complemented each other. It seemed that, as Master said, they really had to go to the Undying Kingdom together. Thinking of this, the aura inside the barrier gradually calmed down. Guan Xiong simply lay on the ground, covered in blood, motionless, as if he was dead. Miao Longer suspected that he had fallen asleep. Sumo's face was pale, and her body was not any better. Many parts of his body were exposed, and a faint azure light was emitting from them. Although it was also a flesh wound, Sumo didn't have an undying body. Just now, he had been resisting, and even though he had the undying chi, he had consumed a lot of it. On the surface, Sumo was a notch higher. However, in terms of consumption and defense, Sumo seemed to be inferior to Guan Xiong. Miao Longer understood that Guan Xiong didn't resist at all, and was just acting pitiful. Divine Tribulation Great Realm and Undying Early Stage were, after all, two different realms. Although there was only a slight difference, if Sumo only relied on her own cultivation, it seemed that she could at most kill an Undying Early Stage. Moreover, it couldn't be a special Undying Early Stage like Guan Xiong. Others didn't know how powerful Guan Xiong was, but Miao Longer knew it very well. If she let Guan Xiong go and let him fight freely, then Guan Xiong would have no problem killing an Undying Intermediate Stage. He could still come back alive from an Undying Great Realm expert. Moreover, if Sumo and Guan Xiong joined forces, coupled with their various magical weapons, as long as it wasn't a cultivator in the God-bearing realm or 3 or more cultivators in the grand circle of the undead realm, it would be impossible to take down the two of them. This battle could be considered a draw. Miao Longer thought to herself, and at the same time, she had a basic judgment of their combat strength. At this time, outside the martial arts field, someone suddenly transmitted a message. Reporting to Eldest Miss, an envoy from the chaotic gods continent of the Undying Kingdom is outside the northern cold city. An envoy from the Undying Kingdom? Miao Long's brows twitched. The Dongfang clan actually dared to come here. Chapter 320. An envoy of the Undying Kingdom. At this time, Sumo also heard the voice transmission. She couldn't help but think, is it for me? Dongfang clan's words were of enormous weight in the Undying Kingdom. How many envoys from the Undying Kingdom came? What level is it? Miao Longer asked towards the void. 3. 1 in the undead realm and 2 in the divine tribulation realm, someone answered from the void. Got it. Then let them wait outside the city. Someone will receive them in a moment. Miao Longer instructed. This subordinate understands. The voice was no longer heard. Miao Longer glanced at Sumo and Guan Xiong on the martial arts field. At this time, Sumo had already struggled to stand up. His body was full of wounds, and he would probably need to rest for a few days. Guan Xiong was still lying on the ground, pretending to be dead. Miao Longer snappily said, "This round is considered a draw. Both of your spells aren't very good." In the end, they actually worked together to create a self-destructive explosion? Ridiculous. Guan Xiong, don't play dead. Get up. An undying cultivator had the nerve to say that his body was injured? Then why did you cultivate the immortal body? People from the Undying Kingdom have arrived, go and take a look. Oh! Guan Xiong stopped lying down when he heard this. Hearing Eldest Miss's words, his anger subsided. Guan Xiong rolled his body and stood up. As he stood up, his body recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. The wounds on his body healed quickly. At the same time, Guan Xiong looked at Sumo provocatively. Little Su, your bones are hard. But your flesh is still inferior to mine. This is the immortal body. Sumo rolled her eyes at him and ignored him. However, the immortal body was indeed powerful. If Guan Xiong hadn't purposely not repaired it, the explosion just now wouldn't have hurt him. In this round, he was still at a disadvantage. Even if he was at the peak of the divine tribulation realm, it still wouldn't do. Don't talk nonsense. Miao Longer said, Guan Xiong, you know how to deal with him in a moment, right? Eldest Miss, don't worry. Guan Xiong said. And Miao Longer nodded, I'll leave it to you. I await your reply. That's all for today. As he spoke, Miao Longer's figure flashed and disappeared. Little Su, let's go. Accompany me to see what the Undying Kingdom's envoy is doing. Guan Xiong waved his hand and changed into a new robe. Sumo also changed one for herself. Otherwise, how could the two of them receive guests with blood all over their bodies? Guan Xiong led the way while Sumo followed behind. The northern Chill City wasn't small, but it was still empty. Carrying Sumo, Guan Xiong rode the wind and arrived at the southern city gate in a short while. However, this was not the route Sumo took to get here. When he came, he didn't use the city gate at all. At this moment, there was a middle-aged cultivator standing guard at the gate. He sat cross-legged on the city gate tower. That person turned out to be a late-stage, undying great cultivator. Deputy Envoy Guan. The middle-aged cultivator saw Guan Xiong and couldn't help but smile. He found it strange that the eldest miss had sent Guan Xiong. It seemed like they still valued the Undying Kingdom's emissary. In Guardian Lin's opinion, he would just kill a fly like this. What was there to see? However, he still consulted the eldest miss just now. Guan Xiong greets Guardian Lin. You've worked hard, Guardian Lin. Although Guan Xiong usually didn't behave properly in front of Miao Longer and Sumo, he was absolutely capable when they were outside. There were 4 gates in the northern Chill City, so there were 4 guardians. The 4 guardians were all cultivators at the peak stage of the undead state. Usually, they guarded one gate each. In fact, there was a rebirth state restriction outside the northern Chill City, so no one would dare to break in. However, there were still people guarding the 4 gates just in case. The peak stage of the undead state wasn't low even in the northern Chill City. Besides, those who could guard a gate were all people that the northern Chill City Lord and Miao Long trusted. Therefore, Guan Xiong was extremely respectful and polite to them. Besides, Guan Xiong was definitely one of the most popular people in the entire northern Chill City. From Miao Long to the waiter, there was no one who didn't know Guan Xiong. The so-called Deputy Envoy Guan was Guan Xiong's title. He was even more powerful than the Guardian. There were 4 emissaries under the northern Chill City Lord's command, and all of them were peerless cultivators. The lowest level among them was at the mid-stage of the soul burial state. At the same time, there were 2 deputies under each of the 4 emissaries. The deputy's level was also around the soul burial state. But that had nothing to do with Guan Xiong. Guan Xiong's position in the northern Chill City was special, because he was directly under Miao Long. Miao Long-er's position in the northern Chill City was unique, because the northern Chill City Lord only had one disciple and he loved him very much. He was only under one person and above thousands. Besides, Miao Long-er's level was the highest in the northern Chill City, apart from the northern Chill City Lord. He was at the peak of the Breaking World level. Because of this, Guan Xiong was able to obtain the title of Deputy Envoy. But in fact, he didn't have any specific duties. He only listened to Miao Long. It wasn't a secret that Miao Long treated Guan Xiong well. But Guan Xiong was never arrogant. He kept a low profile in the northern Chill City and was humble and gentle. That was why everyone was willing to deal with Guan Xiong and hoped that he would be beaten up less. Deputy Envoy Guan, the emissaries of the Undead Kingdom are outside the city, Guardian Lin said. Guardian Lin didn't have an order to let them into the city, so he wouldn't let them in. Guan Xiong nodded. Then, he put on a serious face. A cloud appeared under his feet and he appeared on top of the city. Guardian Lin and Sumo stood behind him. Who are you? Guan Xiong released the energy of the undead state. He didn't look perverted at all. At the same time, 3 people were standing in the air outside the city. They were 3 male cultivators. The leader was at the peak of the undead state. The 2 cultivators behind him were at the mid-stage of the god's disaster state. Guan Xiong hadn't shown up yet, but the 2 cultivators at the mid-stage of the god's disaster state were already impatient. They had been waiting for a long time. The northern Chill City didn't even invite them into the city. To them, this was simply an insult. They weren't representing themselves, but the Undead Kingdom. The Undead Kingdom and the Undead Dynasty. 13 undead state cultivators were a force that nobody dared to underestimate in the entire Chaotic Gods continent. But it seemed that the northern Chill City didn't care about them at all. If the undead state cultivators weren't calm, they would have already exploded. What kind of existence was the northern Chill City? It was worthy of their respect. It was just a floating city made of ice and snow. And now Guan Xiong showed up and asked who they were. He didn't know any manners. However, the middle-aged cultivator smiled and didn't take it seriously. Fang Jing glanced at Guan Xiong and paused for a second when he saw Sumo, but he didn't say anything. I am Fang Jing, the emissary of the Undead Kingdom. Ha! Guan Xiong sneered. An emissary of the Undead Kingdom wants to see Miss? You are not qualified. Just tell me what you want. You! The 2 gods' disaster state cultivators behind Fang Jing were shocked. However, Fang Jing nodded. It seemed that he didn't expect to see Miao Long. Who are you? Are you qualified to be the lord of the northern Chill City? Fang Jing asked. I am Guan Xiong, the deputy emissary of the northern Chill City. Of course I can make the decision. Guan Xiong said proudly. Fine. Fang Jing smirked. He flicked his hand and a red light shot towards Guan Xiong. Deputy Guan, I am here to deliver a letter of challenge under the order of the Undead Kingdom. A letter of challenge. Guan Xiong was surprised. Behind him, Suemo and Guardian Lin were also stunned. The Undead Kingdom dared to send a letter of challenge to the northern Chill City. Was it asking for the destruction of the country? Chapter 321. At the top of the northern Chill City, Guan Xiong stretched out a hand. The red light released by the Undying Kingdom envoy was caught by Guan Xiong. It was a scarlet letter. Red light flowed on it, faintly carrying a murderous intent. However, there weren't many words on it. There was only one word, battle, and it was signed by a soaring firebird. Guan Xiong recognized that it was the symbol of the Undying Empire. The word battle was full of murderous intent. Guan Xiong's eyes narrowed as he glanced at the letter of challenge. Beside him, Guardian Lin's expression also turned cold. Sumo frowned. She was confused. Did the Undying Empire really have the power to challenge the Northern Chill City? The Undying Empire doesn't have the right to issue a challenge to the Northern Chill City. Guan Xiong looked at the three envoys and said calmly. The leader, Fang Zheng, smiled faintly. Deputy Envoy Guan, our Grand Elder, said that the Northern Chill City is mysterious and unreachable, but the Undying Empire isn't willing to be trampled on like ants. Deputy Envoy Guan killed the cultivators of the Undying Empire for no reason and stole the Ink Pond rare treasure. You have to give us an explanation for this. Fang Zheng had never seen Sumo before. Besides, the Dongfang family already knew that Sumo could change her appearance. So, Fang Zheng thought that Guan Xiong was the Guan Xiong. Guan Xiong was startled. When did he kill the cultivators of the Undying Empire and steal the rare treasure? He hadn't been out of the city for 1,000 years. He wanted to kill a few cultivators of the Undying Empire, but he didn't have the chance. This was the closest he had been to the Northern Chill City in the past 1,000 years. Guan Xiong turned around and looked at Sumo. Suemo looked at him and smiled awkwardly. Sumo had just given him a random name. Guan Xiong could not help but glare at Suemo. He understood in his heart that Suemo must have made him a scapegoat. But Guan Xiong didn't care. The Undying Empire was nothing. Any envoy of the Northern Chill City could suppress them. But what was the Ink Pool rare treasure? He had never heard Sumo mention it before. At this moment, the envoy of the Undying Kingdom, Fang Zheng, continued, therefore, the Undying Kingdom is willing to have 3 matches with the Northern Chill City. However, the cultivators participating in the battle were limited to below the Undead Realm. Because my Undying Kingdom is the weakest. Guan Xiong sneered and thought to himself, you still know that you are weak? 3 rounds? Restricted to below the Undead Realm. Could it be that anyone below the Undead Realm could fight in the Undead Kingdom? Under the Undead Realm, the Undead Kingdom had no chance of winning. What happens after victory? Guan Xiong asked. Deputy Envoy Guan, if my Undying Empire wins, please admit your mistake and hand over the Ink Lake rare treasure. If the Northern Chill City wins, the Undying Empire will give you 3 god-level divine weapons. 3 god-burying divine weapons? Guan Xiong shook his head and sneered. The Northern Chill City was nothing to them. It was more like a sea-destroying divine weapon. If the Undying Kingdom wins, of course it won't be a problem. Guan Xiong didn't say what was in his heart. Instead, he curled his lips and squinted his eyes at Fang Zheng. However, if the Undying Kingdom is defeated, I'm afraid it won't be just a matter of 3 divine weapons. Fang Zheng looked at Guan Xiong in silence. I'm afraid the Northern Chill City will take the heads of the Elders Guild of the Immortal Empire. Guan Xiong's voice suddenly turned cold. He was definitely not joking. Since you were able to find the Northern Chill City and dare to challenge us, you should have been prepared for this. Guan Xiong felt that the Undying Kingdom was not as simple as it seemed. Upon hearing Guan Xiong's words, Fang Zheng's expression changed, but he still calmed his mind. Then, Deputy Envoy Guan has agreed to the duel. Fang Jing did not respond to Guan Xiong. If someone wants to die, why wouldn't we agree? Guan Xiong said. I think it's time to purify the Chaos God's continent. All right. Since that was the case, then 1 month later, which was the 3rd of September, invite the cultivators of the northern Chill City to fight in the capital of the Undying Kingdom. Let's fight on the battlefield. Fang Jing cupped his fists towards Guan Xiong and did not say anything else. He turned around and left with the 2 Undying cultivators. Guan Xiong looked at their backs and raised his eyebrows. When 2 kingdoms fight, they do not kill the envoys. Otherwise, Guan Xiong did not continue, but Guardian Lin and Sumo understood what he meant. Guardian Lin sneered. I have been guarding the southern gate of the northern Chill City for 7,000 years. No one dares to challenge the northern Chill City. The Undying Kingdom is the first to challenge the Heaven City. In the Pure Land, even Tian Fu and 9 underworlds do not dare to act rashly in front of the northern Chill City. Aren't we being too low profile? Guan Xiong laughed. Guardian Lin, there are always blind people in this world. Since they want to slaughter the kingdom, then we must satisfy them. Not anyone can come to the northern Chill City. Sumo, let's go. Guan Xiong cupped his fists towards Guardian Lin and left the southern city tower with Sumo. Along the way, Guan Xiong brought Sumo to another courtyard in the city. The courtyard's gate was tall and exquisite. It seemed to be not far from the reflection house. This is? Sumo could not help but ask. One of the courtyards of the eldest Mississippi, Guan Xiong answered and entered without any announcement. This time, Sumo saw Guan Xiong's status. On the way, they met 3 maids. The lowest realm was at the peak of the core formation realm, and the highest was at the soul transformation realm. All of them were respectful when they saw Guan Xiong, and were not surprised at all. It was as if Guan Xiong could come and go as he pleased in this courtyard. Moreover, Sumo could see that those maids did not respect Guan Xiong's realm but his status. Guan Xiong did not look sideways along the way. Those maids were all beautiful like flowers, but Guan Xiong was extremely serious and did not smile. Sumo understood now. It seemed like Guan Xiong was beaten a lot because he looked at those maids. Or else, with Guan Xiong's personality, he would not be so serious. Lady Miao was a vinegar jar. That must be it. Guan Xiong and Sumo arrived at the second courtyard very quickly. Wearing all white, Miao Long Air was standing next to the pond in the middle of the courtyard. He was leisurely feeding a few black goldfish. You are here. Seeing Guan Xiong, Miao Long Air raised an eyebrow. Because since Guan Xiong came, it meant he had something important to discuss. Or else he wouldn't have to come himself. Eldest Miss. Guan Xiong handed over the letter of challenge. The Undying Nation asks for a battle. Miao Long Air smiled. It seemed like she was surprised as well. Then, Miao Long Air put away the fish food in his hand, but did not accept the letter of challenge. What right does the Undying Nation have? Miao Long Air sneered. What did they say? Thus, Guan Xiong recounted everything that had happened just now. Hearing this, Miao Long Air nodded slightly. Guan Xiong, your answer is correct. If we win, we will naturally take the heads of the Undying Nation's 11 elders, not one less. Has the chaotic god's continent been peaceful for too long? Miao Long Air smiled faintly. He had a feeling that behind the Undying Nation, there must be another force. Or else it shouldn't be like this. The Dongfang clan was quite daring. They actually mobilized such a powerful force? However, no matter who it was, they would all be killed. A cold light flashed in Miao Long Air's eyes. It seemed like the Undying Nation did not know the meaning of Purple Heartless. Chapter 322. Northern Cold City Courtyard. After Guan Xiong finished speaking, Miao Long did not feel anything wrong. However, Sumo felt slightly uneasy in her heart. Because all of this seemed to be caused by him. Eldest Miss, everything happened because of me. Sumo is willing to take responsibility for this matter. Sumo cupped her hands and said. Hearing this, Guan Xiong could not help but look at Sumo carelessly. Little Su, you still want to take responsibility? Why didn't you jump down when the emissary came? Previously, the 3 undead realm cultivators of the Dongfang clan could take your life. What do you have to take responsibility for? In your current situation, the undead kingdom can beat you to a pulp. Do you believe it? Sumo was somewhat embarrassed. Guan Xiong was telling the truth. The current Sumo could not even contend against the Dongfang clan, let alone the undead kingdom. Miao Long glanced at Sumo. Sumo, this matter is no longer about you and the Dongfang clan. The undead kingdom could find the northern cold city and even dare to issue a challenge. I'm afraid they have something to rely on. This matter is not that simple. Eldest Miss, there will be a total of 3 battles. I'm willing to fight for a while. Sumo requested again. You want to fight for a while? Guan Xiong looked at Sumo with disdain. A total of 3 battles. The entire undead kingdom, including the major clans and forces, has at least 30 to 40 undead cultivators. Among them, there are no less than 10 undead realm cultivators. You, who have just reached the God Tribulation realm, can be easily killed by them. The northern cold city is not lacking in undead realm, they can just send a few. Why would they need you? Sumo did not speak after listening to this. Miao Long looked at Guan Xiong coldly. This guy's words seemed to look down on Sumo, but in fact, he was worried that Sumo's battle strength was not enough and would suffer a loss. Compared to the early and middle stages of Undead Realm, the late stage and the Undead Realm were not just a little bit higher. And the Undead Realm cultivators of the Undead Kingdom were absolutely not ordinary, otherwise they would not be called the Undead Dynasty. However, Miao Long glanced at Guan Xiong and then at Sumo. This disaster was caused by the 2 of you. Therefore, the 2 of you will have to participate in the battle of the 3 groups. Before Miao Long could finish his words, Guan Xiong's complexion changed. Eldest Miss, I've just reached the early stage of Undying Realm. I'll be killed instantly. So be it. Miao Long said angrily. Our northern Chill City doesn't lack early stage Undying experts. Eldest Miss, how could you bear to do that? Guan Xiong's face was bitter. If I die, who will serve you in the future? Sumo was beside him, and Miao Long-er's face couldn't help but turn slightly red. Why would I be reluctant? If you die, I'll find a better servant who's more reliable than you. Sigh. Sumo listened by the side and felt very tired. These 2 people were too good at showing off. They spoke as if they were telling the truth. Young miss, Guan Xiong is dead, and you still want to find another servant? Look at you beating up Guan Xiong. If others knew what happened to Guan Xiong, you would probably fight them. Therefore, while listening to the 2 people talking, Sumo could only lower her head to look at the 2 black goldfish in the pond. Moreover, when did I cause trouble? The Undying Nations matter has nothing to do with me. I haven't even left the northern Chill City, and I've already become a wanted cultivator who killed people and stole their treasures. I'm innocent. What are you innocent about? You don't know Sumo. Can Sumo say your name? Why didn't Sumo say Zhang-san or Li Si? Isn't it because she treats you as a brother? Miao Long didn't argue. Eldest Miss, you're right. When I was in danger, the first person I thought of was Guan Xiong. Sumo added on. Little Su, Guan Xiong gritted his teeth. It's a good thing, why didn't you think of me? You're the scapegoat, that's why you missed me. Say no more. Miao Long waved his hand. Just now, where is the heroic spirit you had when you promised the Undying Nations envoy? It's settled. You and Sumo will each have 1 match. Then, I'll arrange another complete Undying Realm expert to go with you. You can only win, not lose. Eldest Miss, don't worry. Sumo will win. Sumo said solemnly. Guan Xiong glared at Sumo. You think you can get it? When? Do you think you have a lot of tricks up your sleeve? Complete Undying Realm experts don't have any? Childish. Guan Xiong then looked at Miao Long and said, Eldest miss, I will lose. How about I find a helper in the northern Chill City? I'll find one myself. You don't need to arrange it for me. Humph. Miao Long sneered. Little fatty, don't worry. It's okay if you lose. It's okay as long as Sumo wins. It's okay as long as she wins 2 matches. You want to find a helper? In your dreams. Miao Long understood that if Guan Xiong used his name, who in the northern Chill City wouldn't give him face? It would be easy for Guan Xiong to mobilize an Undying Realm expert in the northern Chill City. Eldest miss, Guan Xiong wanted to say more. Miao Long became impatient and waved his hand. A powerful force hit him. Guan Xiong didn't have any chance to resist or react. Plop, Guan Xiong directly flew into the pond. Water splashed everywhere. Guan Xiong was like a drowned rat. The pond wasn't deep. 2 black goldfish jumped on Guan Xiong's fat face. One on each side, they looked like 2 mustaches. Guan Xiong, you have been talking too much recently. You need to calm down. Miao Long said. That's right. He has been talking too much recently. Sumo said. Miao Long couldn't help but look at Sumo. Sumo learned something good. You have a lot of things to say now. Sumo quickly shut up. Otherwise, he would be the next one to fly. Guan Xiong was soaking wet in the pond. Half of his body was exposed. He looked at Sumo and said, Little Sumo, you have no sense of loyalty. How dare you make sarcastic remarks? Let me ask you, the Undying Kingdom's envoy said that you killed people and stole their treasures. I've taken the blame for you, but I still haven't seen what treasure you took from them. Take it out and let me see. Otherwise, I won't take the blame. Miao Long also remembered after hearing Guan Xiong's words. There was a reason why the people of the Dongfang family wanted to kill Sumo. She didn't ask about Emoze before. Now that Guan Xiong mentioned it, Miao Long wanted to know. Sumo looked at Guan Xiong's expression and found it funny. In fact, when the Undying Kingdom's envoy mentioned Emoze's rare treasure, he didn't want to hide it anymore. Damn fatty, of course I have a rare treasure. Come, I'll borrow the treasure to pull you up. As he spoke, Suemo had a thought. A black light flew out from his storage pouch. The black light expanded with the wind and turned into a black boat. It fell into the pond. Whoosh, whoosh. As soon as the boat landed in the pond, the water in the pond instantly turned black. Sumo was startled. Guan Xiong was also shocked. Originally, Guan Xiong thought that the pond was very cool. But when the boat appeared, Guan Xiong immediately felt danger. Before the boat landed, Guan Xiong had already soared into the sky. His clothes evaporated in an instant, and then they fell behind Miao Long. Miss. Guan Xiong was vigilant. Devil Chi? Miao Long looked at the boat and his expression slightly changed. Even Miao Long had never felt this special aura before. Chapter 323. Demonic Chi? Suemo was slightly taken aback by Miao Long-er's words. The small boat did have the words, Demon Crossing Fate, Undying and Indestructible. But Sumo could not understand the boat. She felt the boat's presence was different, but she could not explain it. Now, the boat was floating in the pond of the courtyard. The pond water was as black as ink. It was the color of Ink Lake in Damyin County. Maybe the formation of Ink Lake had something to do with the boat. Fortunately, the boat's presence did not spread out. It only covered an area of 10 feet. Also, when Sumo summoned the boat, she was afraid something might happen, so she used her presence to cover the boat. Sumo, is this the treasure you got from Ink Lake? Miao Long frowned and asked. Yes. Sumo nodded and said, Big lady, this boat is a treasure above the Undying Plane, right? Do you know where it came from? In the past, Sumo had heard that Ink Lake had an Undying Plane treasure. But after everything that had happened, Sumo felt that the level of the boat was above the undying plane. Undying plane? Miao Long squinted his eyes. Then, she waved her hand. A break world power covered the boat. Miao Long wanted to pull the boat closer to him. Buzz. Buzz. However, the ink-colored boat continued to shake on the pond, causing the entire void to tremble slightly. But Miao Long could not take the boat to the shore. At that moment, Guan Xiong was dumbfounded as he watched from the side. Sumo did not know much, but Guan Xiong knew how powerful Miao Long was. Miao Long had completed the break world. That was an existence that could travel through worlds and shake a continent. But now, it couldn't even collect a small black boat. Demon crossing fate, undying and indestructible. Miao Long saw the 8 ancient seal characters on the boat with a black light. A strange look flashed across her eyes again. She was guessing where the boat came from, but she was not sure. Demon crossing fate, undying and indestructible. Devil crossing fate, immortal and indestructible. Miao Long said to himself in a low voice. Unfortunately, neither Sumo nor Guan Xiong knew what Miao Long was thinking. Sumo, keep this boat, Miao Long said in a soft voice. All right. Hearing this, Sumo did not hesitate. With a thought, he put the boat back into his storage bag. However, there was still a tattered bag in his storage bag. The ink-colored boat directly entered the ragged sack. Guan Xiong couldn't help but be dumbstruck when he saw all of this. It didn't matter that Sumo had a small boat, but Guan Xiong couldn't tell the level of the boat. The key was that Sumo had done something that even Miao Long couldn't do. Sure enough, devils only help those who are fated. Miao Long laughed in a self-mocking manner. He understood in his heart that this small boat could only belong to Sumo now. Eldest Miss, is that a magic treasure above the undead realm? This time, it wasn't Sumo who asked this question, but Guan Xiong. It's not just above the undead realm. Miao Long sighed and shook his head. I don't know its origin. But, perhaps... Miao Long hesitated for a moment. Sumo and Guan Xiong looked at Miao Long waiting for him to speak. Perhaps it's above the reincarnation realm. Miao Long said and looked at Sumo with a complicated expression. However, Sumo didn't know what that expression meant. A magic treasure above the reincarnation realm? Sumo didn't expect this either. Above the reincarnation realm? Guan Xiong turned his head and looked at Sumo in a daze. Little Su, you're amazing now? You're able to collect such a magic treasure. Could it be that you're the reincarnation? Guan Xiong suddenly stopped, as if he felt that something was wrong and didn't say anything else. Sumo's heart was moved, but she didn't ask any further. Sumo, this boat's origin is definitely not ordinary. However, I'm not sure about everything yet. But you can't easily show it to others in the future. Unless you can really control it. Understand? Miao Long said. Understood. Don't worry, Mississippi, Sumo said. Miao Long thought for a moment and said, Sumo, unless it's absolutely necessary, don't use that boat. To avoid the Devil Chi's backlash. If that Devil Chi really causes any problems to you, I'm afraid, even my master won't be able to do anything. This boat is very dangerous, Miao Long said with emphasis. Yes. Sumo frowned and nodded. All right, that's it. Miao Long no longer talked about the boat, but changed the topic. Guan Xiong, Sumo, from today on, you'll prepare for the battle of the Undead Kingdom in a month. Tomorrow, Guan Xiong, you'll take Sumo to the 5th martial arts field. Both of you need to continue improving. I'll arrange a higher-level sparring partner for you. Good. Understood. Guan Xiong didn't talk nonsense this time. He knew that the 5th martial arts field meant that their sparring partner should be at the late stage of the Undead Kingdom, or even at the peak. Guan Xiong, from tomorrow onwards, your millennium confinement will be officially lifted. However, if you dare to run around in the city, I won't forgive you. Miao Long looked at Guan Xiong deeply. Both Miao Long-er and Guan Xiong understood what was considered as running around. Mo Xiaohua's spirit beast store, the beautiful widow's spirit food store, and of course, there was also Rui's store. In any case, Guan Xiong couldn't go to places with many women. Yes. Guan Xiong hurriedly nodded, lifting the confinement first. To be honest, now that Guan Xiong really wanted to participate in the battle, he didn't have the mood to stroll around the northern cold city. After all, he was only at the early stage of the undead kingdom. He wasn't afraid of being defeated, but he was afraid of being killed by the opponent. If that happened, even if the mist destroyed the undead kingdom, it would be useless. Therefore, Guan Xiong, who cherished his life, had to use this month to cultivate crazily. After everything was settled, Guan Xiong and Sumo didn't say anything. Then, they left the courtyard. Along the way, the two returned to the reflection house without a word. Little Su, this time I was dragged down by you. Returning to the reflection house, Guan Xiong felt a lot more free. Really? Sumo looked at Guan Xiong and sneered, Fatty, if it wasn't for me, the miss might not have let you out, right? Maybe she would really lock you up for 1,000 years and let you cultivate to perfection before coming out. Forget it, Guan Xiong said. At least I'm safe here. In the undead kingdom, if I, an early stage undead, fight against an perfection stage undead, it would be suicide. Don't worry. Sumo smiled. Even if Miss Miao wants me to die, she won't let you die. If you die, she will really destroy the undead kingdom. If I die, what's the use of destroying the undead kingdom? Guan Xiong curled his lips. I am also not in the rebirth realm. Speaking of the rebirth realm, Sumo's heart moved as she looked at Guan Xiong. Guan Xiong, just now when you were with the miss, you wanted to say something but didn't. If I can keep that small boat, are you going to ask me what kind of reincarnation I am? Guan Xiong blanked. Guan Xiong, do you know something that you can't tell me? Sumo frowned. Sumo, actually it's not a secret. Guan Xiong thought for a while and said, just now, the miss couldn't keep that small boat, but you can. You must know that the miss's realm is far above yours. So, just now I wanted to ask, are you a reincarnator? Reincarnator? This was the first time Sumo heard of this title. Chapter 324. Samsara. That was a term that Sumo was sensitive to. Now, there was the so-called samsara traveler. Guan Xiong, what is a samsara traveler? Are they cultivators who have reached the rebirth realm? Sumo asked. No. Guan Xiong shook his head. Samsara traveler and rebirth realm cultivators are two different concepts. Actually, I don't really understand it, but eldest miss told me about it. Tell me the details. Sumo impatiently said. Samsara traveler refers to cultivators who have reached the rebirth realm. However, eldest miss also refers to them as eternal realm traveler. The eternal in the eternal realm is derived from the meaning of eternal life. Guan Xiong said. The rebirth realm is equivalent to eternal life? Sumo asked again. No. Guan Xiong shook his head again. However, according to eldest miss, once a cultivator reaches the eternal realm, their lifespan will be calculated in millions of years. The lifespan of a cultivator could be calculated in millions of years. It could also be considered eternal life. Moreover, they had the possibility of eternal spirit. However, it is not true that they will exist forever with vast universe. Within the infinite realms, are there really existences that can exist forever with vast universe? Sumo said. Haha. Guan Xiong laughed bitterly. I don't know. Eldest miss said that she once believed in eternal life, but now she doesn't. Within the infinite realms, there shouldn't be any existences that have eternal life. Everything has life and death. It is just a matter of time. Then what about samsara travelers? Sumo continued to ask. Samsara travelers are actually divided into two types. Guan Xiong sighed. Eldest Miss said that in the Star River world, there was a type of samsara traveler. They are immortal and reincarnated for eternity. They even carry the memories of each life. However, the samsara traveler I am talking about is another type. Accurately speaking, it should be called Three-Realm Samsara Traveler or Star River Samsara Traveler. And Sumo looked at Guan Xiong. Cultivators that reincarnated from the Star River world to the Pure Land world? Guan Xiong looked at Sumo and nodded. You can say that, but not to the Pure Land world, but to the Hidden world. How big is Yizang world? Sumo asked. Eldest Miss said that the Pure Land is just a drop in the ocean. Guan Xiong smiled bitterly again. He could only relay Miao Long Er's words. That was because he himself did not have a clear concept. A drop in the ocean. Sumo frowned and did not say anything else, because all of this was beyond his knowledge. He had yet to fully understand the Pure Land world. The reincarnators I'm talking about are cultivators that reincarnated from the Star River world to the Yizang world. Moreover, they should have all been eternal realm cultivators of the Star River world. Because without eternity one cannot reincarnate. The eternal state is the rebirth state. Sumo said. Yes, that should be the case. This was what Big Sister told me after I came back. The reincarnators of the Xing River realm are different from the first kind of wheel. If they haven't awakened, they won't remember anything from the past, Guan Xiong said. How do I awaken? Sumo asked. I don't know. Guan Xiong shook his head. Guan Xiong, you suspect that I'm a reincarnator. In other words, I was once an eternal realm cultivator of the Xing River world? But I don't know who I am now, Sumo said. Yes. Guan Xiong nodded. I feel that you should be. Otherwise, it's impossible that you were able to collect that boat when even Eldest Miss couldn't. Phew, Sumo exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. In fact, he knew that the reason he could collect it was because he had the tattered cloth bag. However, Guan Xiong's words gave Sumo a lot of inspiration. He was a reincarnator of the three realms? If that was the case, then it would explain a lot of things. For example, why did he suddenly appear in Silent Death Valley? Why did he collect the immortal skeleton? Why did Mu Jinghong treat him like that? Why did he hear a strange song? Why did he see a broken Star River? Therefore, Su Xing believed that what Guan Xiong said was very likely true. He really should have come from the Xing River world or the Three Realms. However, Sumo really didn't know who he was. In all his memories, whether it was his past life or this life, there was no such thing as the Xing River world or the Three Realms. Could it be that he had always been wandering the various realms? Who am I? Sumo looked at Guan Xiong with a perplexed expression. Guan Xiong was a little embarrassed. Sumo, this is only my speculation. However, if you weren't a reincarnator of the Three Realms, Eldest Miss definitely wouldn't treat you like this. However, don't worry about who you are. I don't know either. Eldest Miss is someone from the Xing River world? Sumo asked. Yes. Guan Xiong nodded. Eldest Miss and the City Lord are both from the Xing River world, but they aren't reincarnators. This is because they never died. They came to the Yizang world a step earlier because of fate. Do they know who I am? Sumo asked. They probably don't. They should only be sure that you are a reincarnator of the Xing River. Guan Xiong sighed. Even though I don't know the details, as long as you are a reincarnator of the Xing River, Eldest Miss and the City Lord will protect you no matter who you are. That Xing River is their route. Guan Xiong shook his head. Meanwhile, autumn was coming to an end in the northern Chill City, and winter was coming. Leaves were flying in the reflection house. There were many things that Miao Long didn't tell Guan Xiong, but Guan Xiong could feel it. The Star River was too important for the Lord of the northern Chill City, and Miao Long purple dress was heartless. Guan Xiong had seen the City Lord destroy an entire continent with his own eyes. However, the lord of the northern chill city would only become gentle when he was faced with something related to that galaxy. Sumo, if you know too much, it will only be a burden. In fact, no matter who you are or what you want to do, you have to become stronger. Only by becoming stronger is the foundation of everything. Guan Xiong used a rare solemn tone. There are many cultivators of the undead state in the northern chill city. Actually, it's not a challenge from the undead kingdom. We don't even need to fight. If Eldest Miss wants to, she can destroy the entire undead kingdom. But she wants us to fight on purpose. Isn't it to force me to advance? Of course I know that. Sumo kept everything to herself. But even without the pressure from Eldest Miss, I will keep moving forward. My goal is to be reincarnated. Ha ha! Guan Xiong laughed. Sumo, be practical. Reincarnation is too far away. You should reach the undead state first. Only then will you be qualified to fight against the cultivators of the undead state. I know you have the undead puppets, but don't underestimate the power of the undead kingdom. As Eldest Miss said, they must have something to rely on if they dare to challenge us. I understand. Sumo smiled. Guan Xiong, will we lose? Of course not. Guan Xiong smiled. Why? Because Eldest Miss will kill me if we lose. Guan Xiong squinted his eyes and smiled. No one knew why he was smiling. Then, he said in a serious tone, Sumo, I will win. Su Xing looked at Guan Xiong. Guan Xiong, do you like Eldest Miss Miao? Guan Xiong was shocked. Then, he stood up and said, Haha, who dares to like her? He would be killed. I don't like her. Then, Guan Xiong went back to his room. You are so stubborn. Sumo looked at Guan Xiong's back. If you don't like her, why do you want to win? At that moment, Guan Xiong went back to his room. He closed the door and sighed. What's the point of me liking her? One has completed the breaking world, and the other has just entered the undead state. The difference is like heaven and earth. Haha. It is meaningless to chase after her. It is better not to like her. However, Sumo was talking to herself in the yard. The rebirth state is not far away. Chapter 325. The northern chill city floated quietly in the void north of the chaotic gods continent. In fact, not many people in the Pure Land knew of the existence of the northern chill city. At this moment, a blue-clothed female cultivator stood on the clouds. She looked coldly at the city of ice and snow, frowning slightly. After a while, the blue-clothed female disappeared. A blue light went straight to the Undying Kingdom. Chaotic Gods Continent, Undying Kingdom. The Undying Kingdom was divided into 4 prefectures: Eastern Yin, Western Liang, Nanyue, and Baiting. The core of the Undying Kingdom was located in Baiting Prefecture. Baiting Prefecture had the highest status among the 4 prefectures. The Undying Kingdom's Elder Council was located in Baiting Prefecture's Undying City. There were 11 palaces in the Undying City, belonging to 11 elders. Apart from that, there was also a palace named Heaven's Speech Palace. It was equivalent to the Undying Kingdom's Imperial Court. At night, the Heaven's Speech Palace was brightly lit. There were 11 giant pillars in the tall palace. Each pillar was as thick as 3 or 4 people hugging each other, and nearly 10 feet tall. The roof of the palace was inlaid with 11 bowl-sized pearls, giving off endless brilliance. On the surrounding walls there were also countless white pearls, giving off light. In the middle of the palace there was a round black table. The table was rather large, with a radius of about 2 feet. On top of the round table, there was an illusory rising firebird. It spread its wings, vivid and lifelike. Surrounding the black round table, there were 11 large black stone chairs. Among the 11 black stone chairs, other than the one facing the palace's entrance, which had a rising firebird carved on it, there was no difference. The stone table and the stone chairs were made of the same material, with faint black brilliance, as if containing endless energy. The Heaven Speech Palace was the Undying Kingdom's discussion center. It could be said that all the important matters of the Undying Kingdom were discussed here, and then promulgated and executed. At this moment, the illusory firebird on the round table flickered slightly. In an instant, on the 11 stone chairs, figures flashed. 11 black-robed cultivators appeared. At that moment, the entire palace suddenly became solemn. The 11 black-robed cultivators were like 11 gods. Each of them exuded a strong aura of the undead realm. Moreover, the aura of the undead realm was somewhat different from the aura of ordinary undead cultivators. The aura on their bodies was mixed with a kind of power that came from being in a high position for a long time. To the Undying Kingdom, they were truly 11 gods. Bang! The doors of the Heavenly Word Hall closed after the 11 of them took their seat. Apart from these 11 people, no one else could enter. At this moment, if one looked from the outside, the entire Heavenly Adore Palace was in a completely sealed state, like a palace barrier. The one sitting in the middle of the 11 undying cultivators was a white-haired old man. However, the old man was tall and well-defined. His eyes were bright and full of expression, giving off an invisible feeling of power. Qin Yue, Undead Great Circle, Undead Kingdom's Chief Great Elder. It was said that he would be able to step into the God Burial Realm in less than 100 years. In the entire Council of Elders, he was the person closest to the God of Burial. As for the other 10 Undead Realm experts, 5 of them were at the Great Circle of the Undead Realm, while the other 5 were at the late stage of the Undead Realm. Even on the Chaotic Gods continent, such a lineup would be quite astonishing. Everyone. Qin Yue spoke. His voice was as loud as a bell, and he didn't waste any words. Northern Chill City has accepted our challenge. As soon as Qin Yue said this, the 10 Undead Realm experts had different expressions. Some sneered, some frowned slightly, and some nodded. A middle-aged cultivator sitting on Qin Yue's left sneered. He was none other than Dongfang Fu of the Dongfang clan, Undead Great Circle. Dongfang Fu was the spokesperson of the Dongfang clan in the Undying Kingdom. Apart from the Great Elder, the Undying Kingdom's Council of Elders didn't have any ranking. However, everyone secretly believed that Dongfang Fu was the third most powerful person in the Undying Kingdom. In terms of combat power, he was second only to Qin Yue and Zhong Yishan of the Heavenly Cloud Palace. At this moment, as soon as Qin Yue finished speaking, Dongfang Fu said, "Great Elder, I am willing to fight for the Undying Kingdom." Dongfang Fu's request to fight made all the Undying Elders present mentally prepared. Because, from a certain point of view, the direct cause of this battle was the Dongfang clan. Therefore, it didn't cause too much of a commotion. Of course it's great that Elder Dongfang is going to fight. Qin Yue smiled. I believe this is what the Dongfang clan's ancestral patriarch wants. That's right. Dongfang Fu nodded and smiled. The ancestral patriarch said that we can fight as much as we want. If any soul burial cultivators appear in the northern Chill City, she will show up. Don't worry, Great Elder and everyone else. Dongfang Fu looked at everyone and gave them a determined look. That was because the decision to challenge the northern Chill City had only been passed by 6-5 in the previous voting. Everyone didn't agree on this issue. It was mainly because they knew too little about the northern Chill City. They weren't sure about the meaning of this battle. With the ancestral patriarch's promise, we have more confidence. Qin Yue smiled. The Undying Kingdom will be responsible for 2 of the 3 battles. Now, we only need one more person to fight. Everyone who wants to fight. Qin Yue looked at everyone. He had already said before that he wouldn't fight because he wanted to reach the soul burial realm. Because he wanted to charge into the God-burying realm. He was currently the cultivator with the highest chance of entering the God-burying realm in the entire Undying Kingdom. There were only 2 soul burial cultivators in the entire Undying Kingdom. If there was another soul burial cultivator, it would be very significant. Therefore, no one had any objections if Qin Yue didn't fight. At this moment, everyone looked at Zhong Yishan of the Heavenly Cloud Palace. He was the strongest cultivator in the Undying Kingdom after Qin Yue. Zhong Yishan was a middle-aged cultivator with a slightly thin face. He had been calm ever since he entered the hall. No one could tell if he was happy or angry. At this moment, he could feel everyone's gazes, but he still looked calm. Elder Zhong. Qin Yue could only ask him to speak. Great Elder, Elder Dongfang. Zhong Yishan smiled faintly. I was against the challenge from the Northern Chill City, but now I'm afraid that the Northern Chill City won't accept it. This is the attitude of the Heavenly Cloud Palace. Qin Yue nodded. Dongfang Fu frowned. However, the Undying Kingdom is a family. For hundreds of thousands of years, we've shared glory and disgrace together. Zhong Yishan sighed. I, Zhong Yishan, don't care about myself or the Heavenly Cloud Palace. I'm afraid the Undying Kingdom is in trouble this time. It's not worth it. Great Elder Fangzheng didn't even enter the Northern Chill City when he came back with the letter. He didn't see the opponent's strength at all. Also, he sent a message. Great Elder seems to have forgotten to tell us. It's fine if we win, but if we lose. Hearing this, everyone looked at Qin Yue. Great Elder, what did the Northern Chill City say? An elder asked. Qin Yue smiled faintly. The Northern Chill City said that if they win, they want 11 heads from the Undying Kingdom's Elder Council. The expressions of the Undying Kingdom's elders changed, including Dongfang Fu. At their level, they knew that there was no need to brag. The Northern Chill City actually sent such a message. It meant that they had a certain level of confidence. For a moment, the atmosphere in the Heavenly Speech Hall was stagnant. The Undying Realm cultivators weren't afraid, but they were weighing the pros and cons. At this moment, a divine sense came from outside the Heavenly Speech Hall. The Northern Chill City is so arrogant. I'm afraid they won't have the chance. Everyone, I'm here. Don't worry. At this moment, the shadow of a woman in blue appeared in the Heavenly Speech Hall. The so-called barrier of the Heavenly Speech Hall was nothing in front of the woman. Chapter 326. City of the Undead, Heaven's Speech Palace. The palace was majestic and solemn. The 11 elders of the Undead dynasty were all dressed in black robes. However, the illusory figure of the blue-clothed woman landed in the middle of the hall so naturally. In that instant, the illusory firebird on the round table dimmed slightly. It was a form of suppression. The eyes of the 11 undying cultivators flashed with fear. The divine sense was a power they couldn't resist. A divine sense penetrated the heaven's speech barrier. And it wasn't her real self. The heaven's speech barrier was reinforced by the cultivators of the god burial realm. That meant the undead kingdom was nothing in her eyes. She could destroy it with a wave of her hand. Emissary Yi. Qin Yue stood up as soon as the woman in blue appeared. As soon as he stood up, the remaining 10 undying cultivators also stood up as a sign of respect. Even though it was only a divine sense image, it was enough to make the undying elders respect her. Elder Qin, you're welcome. The divine sense image became more and more solid. It was a blue-clothed woman. She was extremely beautiful and graceful, but although she was smiling, there was a trace of viciousness in her eyes that could not be erased. In fact, all the cultivators present had seen this divine sense before. The reason the Undead Kingdom dared to challenge the Undead Kingdom was mainly because of this woman. However, they still felt a sense of unfamiliarity and fear. Because they couldn't see through this blue-robed female cultivator's cultivation. Elders, don't worry. The woman in blue scanned the undying elders with her divine sense and smiled. I told you to challenge the Northern Chill City because I'm confident. Emissary Yi. Zhong Yishan cupped his hands at the woman in blue. Forgive me for being blunt, but we're not worried about the outcome of the 3 battles. We're worried about the revenge of the Northern Chill City. After all, the northern Chill City is too mysterious. They said they want our heads. Elder Zhong, you're worrying too much. Who doesn't know how to brag? The woman in blue smiled. Let's take a step back. The corpseless sect will show up. Elder Zhong, you should believe in the power of the corpseless sect. As long as the corpseless sect wills it, we can destroy the entire chaotic gods continent. The tone of the blue-clothed woman's last sentence was slightly heavy. On the surface, it seemed like it was to increase the confidence of the undying empire, but every elder at the scene could hear the threat in it. They didn't even care about the chaotic gods continent, let alone the undying kingdom. Now, choosing you to help the undying kingdom is a form of honor. For a time, there was no sound in the heavenly speech hall. Ha ha! The woman in blue curled her lips. Everyone, since Northern Chill City has accepted the challenge. You don't have to think too much about other things. You just need to choose 2 people to fight, and they have to win at least once. I'll take care of the rest. After we win, according to our original agreement, I'll raise everyone's cultivation by a level. At the Great Circle of the Undead Realm, I will let you become burial gods. At the late stage of the Undead Realm, I will let you become Great Circle of the Undead Realm. The blue-clothed woman's words were powerful and resonant. The elders of the Immortal Dynasty were dumbfounded. Coercion and enticement were common methods, but they were often the most effective. Looking again, the blue-clothed woman raised her hand, and a purple pill shot out from her palm. The pill landed in front of an elder of the late stage of the Undead Realm. Elder Yang, you're in the late stage of the Undead Realm. This is a circle aiding pill. Try it. You'll reach the Great Circle in 3 days, the blue-clothed woman said casually. Elder Yang had been stuck in the late stage of the Undead Realm for thousands of years. As long as he reached the Great Circle, he was confident that he could reach the Burial God Realm. He raised his eyebrows when he saw the circle aiding pill in front of him. Brother Yang, there's no need to hesitate. Dongfang Fu said, Envoy Yi, if you want to harm the undying kingdom, you don't have to go through so much trouble. We all know the power of the corpseless sect. This is an opportunity. Dongfang Fu's words made sense. The blue-clothed woman didn't need to play tricks. At the same time, the pill was a gift. Regardless of victory or defeat, once Elder Yang ate it, there was no way he could lose. Elder Yang didn't hesitate and ate the circle-aiding pill. In an instant, Elder Yang's expression changed, because he felt a warm current flowing into his Dan Si. It was the endless power of the undead realm. He had been cultivating for thousands of years and couldn't improve at all. However, in that instant, Elder Yang knew that his cultivation level would definitely rise. For a cultivator who had been stuck in the undead realm for thousands of years, nothing was more tempting. Only the body of the undead realm was undying. After a few more years, cultivators like Elder Yang would also die. Advancing was their only hope. At this moment, he knew that the blue-clothed woman didn't lie to him. As long as he cultivated in seclusion for 3 days, he would reach the Great Circle. Brother Yang. The cultivators next to him felt the change in him. Yang Zhe thanks Envoy Yi. The undying kingdom will win this battle. Yang Zhe bowed deeply to the blue-clothed woman. Zhong Yishan frowned. At first, Yang Zhe was against challenging the northern Chill City. However, he didn't expect the blue-clothed woman to make such a big move as soon as she appeared. Fine. Zhong Yishan looked at the other elders and understood what they meant. To fight or not to fight, it seemed that it was no longer their choice. Right now, the blue-clothed envoy Yi was still smiling and talking nicely to them. However, if the negotiation failed, she would kill them with a wave of her hand. Who would dare to offend a peerless cultivator who could rise to the next level with just one pill? Plus, Zhong Yishan was looking forward to the god burial state. Qin Yui and Dongfang Fu's eyes lit up. The Dongfang clan had patriarch burial god, but they didn't have such a pill. Envoy Yi, Grand Elder. I'm willing to fight. Zhong Yishan said. Good. The blue-clothed female cultivator smiled. Everyone, the corpse-less sect takes our promises seriously. As long as we succeed, I can guarantee that your families and sects will be able to control the undying kingdom forever. In the future, you might even be able to control the entire chaotic gods' central region. Haha. Qin Yui laughed. I thank you on behalf of the undying kingdom, Envoy Yi. We'll do our best in this battle. As for other matters, as long as we can do it, we will definitely help Envoy Yi. Grand Elder, you're too kind. The blue-clothed female cultivator nodded. Since it's settled, I won't disturb you anymore. On the day of the battle, the people I arranged will come. Everyone, please take care of me. Envoy Yi, you're too kind. All the elders of the undying kingdom cupped their hands. Farewell. The blue-clothed female didn't say anything else. The divine sense disappeared instantly. The pressure in the heavenly word palace decreased by half. The firebird on the round table returned to normal. After the blue-clothed female cultivator disappeared, Qin Yui glanced at everyone and said in a deep voice, Everyone, our undying kingdom has no way out. We can only cut off our means of retreat. Zhong Yishan nodded. Now that it's come to this, we can only fight. On the day of the battle, I'll ask Patriarch Burial God of the Heavenly Cloud Palace to help us. Thank you for your hard work, Patriarch Burial God. After this is done, I'll bring our Elder Council to personally thank the two patriarchs. The other elders of the Undying Kingdom also cupped their fists at Dongfang Fu and Zhong Yishan. Dongfang Fu and Zhong Yishan looked at each other with determination. We'll win this battle. The Undying Kingdom was united. Chapter 327. Northern Cold City, Martial Arts Field No. 5. At this time, Guan Xiong was sitting in a corner of the martial arts field, gasping for breath. There were dozens of wounds on his body, as if they were cut by a knife, dripping with blood. Although those wounds were constantly healing, Guan Xiong's face was extremely pale. This time, he was not pretending to be pale, but really pale. In the battle just now, he had exhausted his spiritual energy in an instant. Next to him stood Miao Long-er in snow-white clothes. Next to Miao Long-er stood a fat, middle-aged cultivator who looked like a wealthy merchant. The middle-aged cultivator stood there with a smile. However, judging from the dust on his body, he should have just finished fighting with Guan Xiong. However, Guan Xiong was completely defeated and did not cause any harm to him at all. Old Bai, in a few days, I will definitely beat you until you beg for mercy. Guan Xiong adjusted his breathing for a while, then looked at the middle-aged cultivator and gnashed his teeth. Moreover, tonight, I will go to the Drunken Immortal building to eat a big meal and then put it on credit. Hiss! Guan Xiong spoke too forcefully, affecting his wounds for a while. The Drunken Immortal buildings by Yuesheng smiled without saying anything. Miao Long turned his head and looked at Guan Xiong. Guan Xiong, in a few days, you will fight again in an hour. I want to see if you can still go to the Drunken Immortal building to eat and drink tonight. Eldest Miss, Guan Xiong's complexion had just improved, but in an instant it turned pale again. Does she want to beat me to death? Shut up. Miao Long raised her eyebrows. Damn fatty, you still have the nerve to talk? An early-stage undying expert couldn't even withstand 3 moves and ended up like this. How can you beat an undying realm cultivator from the undying country? If you talk again, I will beat you myself. Looking at Miao Long-er's angry look, Guan Xiong did not dare to talk back. However, he kept cursing and secretly stared at Bai Yuesheng. Old Bai, you are only at the peak of the undying realm, yet you still have the nerve to use a big move. Otherwise, why would I be so miserable? You don't give me any face. Bai Yuesheng looked at Guan Xiong and shook his head with a wry smile, thinking, Guan Xiong, if I dare to throw the match, then the eldest miss will dare to bleed me. However, Bai Yuesheng was also pondering whether or not he should hit harder and knock Guan Xiong unconscious. That way, he wouldn't have to listen to Guan Xiong's various threats. At the same time, he wouldn't have to attend the banquet tonight. Otherwise, Guan Xiong would turn the drunken immortal restaurant upside down. It was decided. Bai Yuesheng thought to himself, but he smiled at Guan Xiong apologetically. In a short while, Guan Xiong would be in trouble. At this time, Sumo was fighting with another great perfection undead late-stage expert. The two of them fought back and forth, pretending to be serious. The undead at the Great Circle late stage was also a middle-aged cultivator with an honest look. His clothes were made of homespun cloth, and there were many colors of smoke and fire on it. However, the middle-aged cultivator was quite strong and sturdy. He looked like a blacksmith. Sumo and that cultivator have already fought 7 to 8 rounds. Guan Xiong, look at Sumo. He had already fought 7 or 8 rounds with the blacksmith, and was not injured at all. He's much stronger than you, Miao Longer said. Guan Xiong was so angry that he wanted to cry. Can't you be reasonable? As soon as Old White came up, he used a big killing technique. The top spells of the undead realm were overwhelming. He didn't give him any chance at all. It looked like he really wanted to kill him. Now that he thought about it, he felt a little scared. He was at the early undead stage, and being able to withstand 3 moves from a Great Circle expert was already not bad. However, look at Big Brother Iron. Every move was steady, and even the pressure of the Great Circle of the undead stage was not completely released. The two did not seem to be fighting to the death, but more like a martial arts competition. This was not the same situation as what Guan Xiong encountered just now. The difference in treatment was too big. Sumo is a deity tribulation expert. You still have the nerve to say that you are an undead. Miao Longer sneered at Guan Xiong. She did not intend to reason with Guan Xiong at all. Guan Xiong lacked pressure. In fact, everything was arranged by Miao Longer, including how to fight. At this time, the blacksmith had been suppressing Sumo, but he did not use his full strength. This was to let Sumo perform better. In theory, a late-stage deity tribulation expert was not qualified to fight against a Great Circle undead. Whoosh! At this time, Sumo threw out her second punch. Golden light and red light soared into the sky. The momentum was not small, but in the blacksmith's view, it was too weak. 10 moves. The blacksmith knew in his heart that Miao Longer told him to give Sumo a taste of his power after 10 moves. Therefore, this time when Sumo attacked, the blacksmith did not dodge at all. He actually wanted to use his body to take Sumo's punch. Sumo could not help but be slightly stunned. Did an undead stage expert really dare to ignore her fist technique? Thinking of this, Sumo secretly increased her strength. Whoosh, bang, the punch landed squarely on the blacksmith's chest. However, in an instant, Sumo felt a great force rebound against him. The feeling was completely different from hitting the rockery. There was a smile on the blacksmith's simple and honest face. Sumo was directly rebounded. That's right. That was a rebound, not because Sumo consciously flew back. The power that Sumo used just now was returned by the blacksmith almost without any loss. That was equivalent to Sumo punching herself. At that moment, Sumo was like a kite with a broken string, going straight to the corner of the martial arts field. In the void, Sumo's face was slightly pale, and blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. The blacksmith's body seems to be stronger. Bai Yuesheng frowned. Sumo has no chance. Sumo's fist is still not good enough. The blacksmith's body is comparable to an early-stage soul burial cultivator. Even if Sumo's fist is superimposed again, it should be ineffective, Miao Longer said. Alas. Bai Yuesheng sighed. This is not a battle of the same level. Miss, I think we should not let Guan Xiong and Sumo fight in those 3 battles. Our northern Chill City can win any of the 3 perfected ones. Miao Longer shook his head and said meaningfully, they must fight in this battle. In fact, this battle is aimed at the two of them. Bai Yuesheng understood Miao Long-er's painstaking effort, so he didn't insist. Miss, what if they lose? Bai Yuesheng asked. Haha, old Bai, why are you asking me such a question? Miao Long looked at Bai Yuesheng and couldn't help but laugh. You are a businessman. Bai Yuesheng didn't react for a moment. Old Bai, it seems that only the weak act shamelessly, but you are wrong. Miao Long narrowed his eyes. In fact, acting shamelessly is the right of the strong. Let me tell you, old Bai. This time, no matter who wins, I will flatten the undying nation. Miao Long-er's eyes emitted a cold murderous intent, do you understand? The so-called 3 battles are just a small prelude. Bai Yuesheng's expression changed. He lowered his head and said in a deep voice, I understand. The northern Chill City does not tolerate challenges. On the day of the destruction of the nation, I request to leave the city and participate in the battle. Miao Long-er withdrew his murderous intent and shook his head with a smile. The worlds have been peaceful for a long time. But the reincarnators are gradually returning. Then, the secret of the destruction of the 3 worlds will be revealed. I'm afraid the hidden world will also be restless. Miao Long-er looked at the battle in the field, his thoughts drifting. At this moment, the moment Sumo flew backward. The blacksmith approached her like a shadow. At the same time, he raised one hand and instantly turned into an undying saber aura that was dozens of feet long and directly slashed at Sumo. This slash was enough to split Sumo in half. Chapter 328. Whoosh, the blade light was dazzling like a star. The blacksmith's hand chop was the real strength of an undead realm great circle. The several zhang long blade light slashed down from the sky. The void suddenly shattered. If this was not the martial arts field, this slash was enough to flatten a radius of several dozen li. At that moment, Sumo had no time to escape, not to mention that his Dan-si was still churning. Whoosh, with a thought, a dazzling golden light directly appeared between Sumo and the blade light. It was none other than one of Sumo's golden skeletons. Before this battle, Miao Longer only requested that Sumo not use the undead realm ghost shadow puppet, because that would greatly weaken the meaning of the battle. As for Sumo's other means, Miao Longer did not restrict her. Sumo, of course, understood that Miao Longer wanted to test her own strength. Therefore, Sumo did not use the puppet until the critical moment. However, if she did not use the puppet now, Sumo would definitely lose. Today, although it was not a battle against the undead realm experts of the undead kingdom, Sumo also wanted to see what level she could reach. Boom, crack, the blacksmith's blade light hit the golden skeleton. For a moment, the golden light scattered and spiritual power overflowed. The blacksmith did not know Sumo's ability. As soon as the golden skeleton appeared, it instantly emitted a strange aura and directly broke the blacksmith's hand blade. But the golden skeleton was not damaged at all. The blacksmith's expression changed. At this time, the golden skeleton suddenly raised its arm and clawed at the blacksmith's head. Puppet technique? The blacksmith was taken aback and quickly retreated. Miao Longer, who was watching the battle outside, smiled faintly. If she used all her means, Sumo's battle strength should be above Guan Xiong's. There was no other reason. The thing on Sumo's body was too powerful. Otherwise, how could she provoke the 3 undead realm experts of the Dongfang family that day? Sumo is actually a puppeteer? Bai Yuesheng was also shocked. Originally, he felt that it was overkill for the young miss to send him and the blacksmith here. Sparring with a spirit tribulation great circle expert and an undying early-stage expert, calling 2 undying late-stage experts was enough. Especially since he had only used 3 moves to beat Guan Xiong black and blue all over, he had even more ideas. However, Bai Yuesheng had put that thought away. Sumo's skeleton made of golden light was definitely not ordinary. Bai Yuesheng frowned. He couldn't see through the golden skeleton either. At this moment, if he knew that Sumo had a total of 18 skeletons, how would he feel? The blacksmith's thoughts were basically similar to Bai Yuesheng's. As soon as Sumo's golden skeleton appeared, he immediately paid attention to this battle. The aura of the golden skeleton made him feel somewhat stifled. However, the blacksmith's speed was extremely fast, and the golden skeleton's claw missed. However, when he looked at Sumo again, he raised his eyebrows as another ray of purple light flew out from his storage bag. The blacksmith's vision blurred, and he saw a sword light charging straight at his heart. Huh! The blacksmith was really surprised. Sumo's move was so fast, and it was another puppet? The puppet's sword was quite strange. Although the sword was only attached to the power of the god Tribulation, the blacksmith felt a kind of king's aura from the sword. How could the King Mu's sword be ordinary? However, it was impossible to defeat the blacksmith with just this sword. The blacksmith did not dodge this time, but crossed his arms to block. His arms instantly flashed with black light. Boxing gloves and arm guards directly appeared. Clang, chi-chi. A crisp sound rang out, and sparks flew everywhere. The King Mu's puppet's sword directly hit the blacksmith's arm guard, but it couldn't hurt him at all. The blacksmith himself was a master refiner. "Little brother Su, you're amazing," the blacksmith said sincerely. Bai Yuesheng, who was watching the battle, couldn't help but nod. Sumo actually forced the blacksmith to use his armor. For a Spirit Tribulation great stage expert, this was quite an easy feat tch. Guan Xiong looked at Bai Yuesheng disdainfully. "Old Bai, give me a chance later. I can also use my magic weapon to beat you up." Hee. Bai Yuesheng smiled without saying anything. Miao Longer said coldly, "Old Bai, let Guan Xiong have 3 moves. See what magic weapon he has. Then, you beat him hard for me, just leave him breathing. If you can't do that, I'll beat you until you're left with 1 breath. Understand?" This subordinate obeys. Bai Yuesheng's face showed a difficult expression, and he reluctantly agreed. However, he was secretly overjoyed. "Guan Xiong, you're finished this time." Guan Xiong's face darkened, and he didn't dare to say anything. He knew that he couldn't avoid another round of beating today, and it would depend on the extent of the beating. In the field, the blacksmith blocked the King Mu's puppet sword, and then rose into the air. He swung his arms and directly smashed towards Sumo's 2 puppets. This time, it was different from before, because the blacksmith had used his magic weapon. Although he didn't really wear his divine armor, the armor on his upper limbs had already appeared. Black light soared to the sky, and a murderous aura surged. In fact, Sumo could also summon the golden skeletons, and even set up a skeleton array. With his current realm, it was not a problem for him to freely control the 3 golden skeletons, but Sumo didn't want to rely too much on the skeletons. Therefore, Sumo didn't control the 2 puppets, but really let them bear the blacksmith's attack. Sumo, on the other hand, swung his right fist. Boom! The 3rd punch. This was also Sumo's last punch. 4/5 of his spiritual energy was sucked dry by this punch. This was his strongest punch, and even if he continued, he would only be able to repeat his strength at most. Looking at Sumo's incoming fist, the blacksmith couldn't help but laugh. "Little brother Su, you actually dare to punch again?" One must know that he had just reflected Sumo's punch. At this time, Sumo couldn't even open his mouth to speak. Even if he could, he still wanted to say another punch. Sumo understood that his full strength was reflected because he didn't have enough strength. No matter how powerful a spring is, if you break it with 1 punch, why would it reflect back? With this last punch, Sumo's long hair fluttered, and his body was covered in a golden red light. It was as if he wanted to burn himself completely, and the entire martial arts field was illuminated by his light. Miao Long Air slightly nodded. Bai Yuesheng sighed. "Sumo is really tenacious. Although this punch probably can't do anything to the blacksmith, this kind of spirit is really rare." Normal cultivators, who would dare to punch a second time? Boom, boom, bang, bang, loud noises shook the sky on the martial arts field. At the same time, the blacksmith's fist directly hit the golden skeletons and Mu Wang's puppet, while Sumo's fist also hit the blacksmith's chest. Looking again, two figures almost flew out at the same time. One was Sumo and the other was the blacksmith. Wah! In the air, Sumo already vomited blood. The blacksmith's body was really too tyrannical. Just now, Sumo's punch could even leave a fist mark on the fake mountain. However, when it hit the blacksmith's body, it was like hitting a drum. The recoil force directly caused Sumo to be unable to suppress his chi and blood. However, what Sumo didn't expect was that the blacksmith also flew out. Chapter 329. The purpose of the competition was to increase Guan Xiong and Sumo's battle experience. In the match with Guan Xiong, he had been defeated cleanly and without any suspense. However, Sumo's match could be said to be full of surprises. Sumo's two puppets attracted everyone's attention. The blacksmith didn't make another move. Firstly, he had just been hit by the two puppets and his chi and blood were unstable. Secondly, this was an internal sparring match after all. Thirdly, he wanted to see what was going on with the two puppets. Buzz buzz buzz, buzz buzz. The golden skeleton and Mu Wang's puppet were vibrating at the same frequency. The resonance was shocking. Even Miao Longer couldn't figure out the reason. Under Sumo's illusionary puppetry technique, the light of the two puppets gradually merged into one. The purple light contained a golden light and the golden light contained a purple light. The purple light shot into the sky and even seemed to be able to penetrate the seal of the fifth training field. The seal of the fifth training field could withstand the attack of a beginner-level deity burial cultivator. Many cultivators in the northern Chill City were looking at the number 5 training field. What was going on there? There were even a few deity burial cultivators' divine wills. However, they immediately retreated when they saw Miao Longer. "My lady, are you going to merge the puppets?" Bai Yuesheng asked in surprise. Miao Longer frowned and nodded. That was indeed what was happening. Sumo's spell didn't just merge the purple light and the golden light, but the two puppets themselves. The Phantom Soul spell. Other than Suemo, no one else knew what kind of spell it was. In fact, it was a spell that Yi Wuhui had taught Sumo. It was a top-level puppet spell that wasn't any weaker than the white skeleton spell. In other words, it was to create a soul for the puppet. Of course, it was all an illusion. It didn't mean that the puppets really had souls. Sumo hadn't reached the highest level of the Phantom Soul spell. However, the beginner level of the Phantom Soul spell was the so-called fusion. However, what Sumo wanted to fuse with now was not one type of soul, but two puppets. This was also a flash of inspiration in Sumo's mind, a stroke of genius. Looking again, the two puppets that were originally standing side by side were gradually approaching each other. They buzzed and approached each other. The approach was extremely slow. However, they did not collide. Instead, the moment they came into contact, an illusory superposition appeared. The golden light and the purple light completely fused together. Their bodies were also merging. First the arms, then the shoulders, and finally the head and torso. It was an extremely shocking scene. Miao Longer, Guan Xiong, Bai Yuesheng, and the blacksmith stared blankly at this scene. Even Suemo was shaken to the core. It was a perfect fusion. Sumo didn't know who made the 3 puppets he bought from the Ghost City's all-life pavilion, but Sumo knew that the 3 puppets' torsos were refined from the 5-colored divine soil. However, at this moment, Sumo could see that under the purple robe, the golden skeleton was fusing with the 5-colored divine soil, and there was no reaction. The skeleton was the bone, and the divine soil was the flesh. That Mu Wang's body was almost like a real cultivator's. Sumo's expression was calm, as if everything was under his control. However, in reality, Sumo was even more shocked than Miao Longer and the others. Because he was the puppet's master. Under the phantom soul spell, he really fused the two puppets. Whoosh! At the last moment, Sumo even heard Mu Wang's sigh in his heart. However, that sigh could not be heard by anyone other than Sumo. There seemed to be a spark in King Mu's gray eyes. Similarly, no one else could see it except for Sumo. Is this Mu Wang going to come back to life? Sumo asked in his heart. At this moment, the fusion was basically complete. Mu Wang's puppet was wearing a purple robe, but it emitted a faint golden light. Its aura was different from the previous two puppets, but it was definitely stronger than them. Big Brother Iron, let's try one more move, how about it? Sumo asked. Yes. The blacksmith looked at the puppet and nodded. He wanted to see the puppet's battle strength. Sumo did not hesitate. With a thought, he changed the hand seal in his hand. Whoosh! Mu Wang's puppet's robe fluttered in the wind. An array of sword light shot towards the blacksmith. At this moment, Sumo felt that his control was extremely smooth and natural. The puppet had actually evolved, and it seemed like he could control it with just a thought. At the same time, the power of the sword had exceeded Sumo's imagination. Whoosh! The king's energy was even denser. This kind of energy could not even be found on Miao Long. After all, Miao Long was not a king. However, how could this puppet have such a dense king's energy? Everyone at the scene was shocked. Ka. Looking at Mu Wang's sword, it was like a rainbow piercing through the sun. The ray of sword light was 100 zhang long, and its pressure was like a surging ocean. The entire fifth training field shook. Crack! That was the sound of a barrier breaking. The blacksmith's expression changed. The reason for that was because that puppet's sword caused him to feel an extreme sense of danger. Killing intent. The king's killing intent. The inextinguishable king's killing intent. The aura emitted from Mu Wang's sword was too strong. At this moment, Sumo's brows were tightly knitted. Because at that moment, she heard Mu Wang's puppet roar in its heart. That roar seemed to reach the 9 heavens. It was a kind of unwillingness, a kind of obsession. It was a kind of regret that could not be completely dissipated even in death and reincarnation. Roar, unfortunately, the others could not hear it. However, that roar moved Sumo. The others could only feel a storm-like destructive aura. Guan Xiong was dumbfounded. Little Su actually had such a powerful puppet? That seemed to be the aura of a god-burying realm expert. Wasn't it going to destroy whoever it saw? Undying Realm Full Circle was trash. Holy Wheel Golden Dragon Fist? It was unnecessary. Guan Xiong knew that there were a total of 18 golden skeletons in Sumo's storage bag. Thinking about it made his scalp tingle. In the training field, immediately, a black armor appeared on the blacksmith's body. It was the deity-burying armor, and it was the blacksmith's most powerful shield. However, the blacksmith still used another defensive Dharma spell. However, this Dharma spell was a bit meaningless, because the deity-burying enchantment had been broken. Whoosh, boom! Mu Wang's sword was unstoppable and unstoppable. Meanwhile, the sword aura in the 5th training field could be seen from every corner of the northern Chill City. Guardian Lin of the South Gate frowned and mumbled to himself, "What kind of sword is that? Could it be that Lady Xiao is fighting in the 5th training field?" The same question was asked in many corners of the northern Chill City. There were even many curious cultivators who arrived in the void above the 5th training field in a single step. They happened to see Miao Long in her snow-white outfit attack. At this moment, Miao Long had to intervene. She knew that the blacksmith would not be able to block that sword and would definitely be seriously injured. Whoosh! Miao Long flew into the air like a white lotus. Suddenly, the pressure of the deity-burying stage spread and suppressed the energy of Mu Wang's puppet. At the same time, she flicked her thumb and middle finger on her right hand. A purple light shot out. Boom, crack! Inside the purple light was the tip of Mu Wang's sword. In the blink of an eye, 10,000 rays of light spread out, and countless energies rose into the sky like clouds. The entire northern Chill City was silent. Chapter 330. Rays of light surged up into the sky. The barrier of the fifth training field was completely shattered. By Yuesheng, Guanxiong, Sumo and the blacksmith hurried to retreat to avoid the energy storm. Otherwise, they would all be seriously injured. Luckily, Miao Long Er's pressure suppressed everything. All the auras started to recede. The cultivators who came to check out the situation couldn't help but click their tongues. That sword was too overbearing. Of course, the young lady was even more overbearing. The smoke in the training field dissipated. Without Su Mo's command, Mu Wang's puppet naturally didn't attack again. Miao Long Er's white robe fluttered in the air, but he frowned. Sumo, this is a god-burying puppet. Miao Long Er looked at Sumo and said, this puppet is strong enough to kill a cultivator at the undead realm. Even with the protection of the godly armor, that sword could still injure the blacksmith. Sumo was startled. She didn't expect this either. After King Mu's puppet fused with the golden skeleton, it became a god-burying puppet. As for Mu Wang's puppet sword, it was like a flying immortal from the heavens, unstoppable. If Miao Long Er hadn't been there, no one would have been able to stop the sword. He was a bit reckless just now. Miao Long Er saw Sumo's expression. She knew that Sumo couldn't explain everything. If Sumo had such a puppet, she wouldn't have died in the hands of the undead realm cultivators of the Dongfang clan. Given Sumo's temperament, he would have brought it out long ago. Blacksmith, you lost. Miao Long Er sighed. She had mixed feelings. In truth, with Sumo's strength, he could almost certainly win this round. However, there was an inexplicable unease in her heart. Sumo's puppet was too overbearing. But Miao Long Er didn't ask where Sumo's purple puppet came from. She knew that the Corpseless sect was good at making all kinds of puppets. The Corpseless sect was an existence that not even the northern Chill City dared to underestimate, because it had completely surpassed the Pure Land. The blacksmith replied helplessly. There was no way he could block that sword attack just now. He didn't expect Sumo to have such a puppet. A deity tribulation cultivator with a god-burying puppet was simply inconceivable. Little Su, when did your puppetry technique become so powerful? You can actually fuse with puppets? Guanxiong came over and looked at Sumo enviously. Now, he believed that Sumo could ruthlessly beat him up, so he absolutely did not dare to be arrogant. It was just a coincidence. Actually, it was just a coincidence. Sumo spoke the truth. With a wave of her hand, she kept the Mu Wang puppet back into her storage pouch. The cultivators inside and outside the place were astounded. There weren't many deity-burying cultivators in the entire northern Chill City. Let's call it a day. Miao Long Er glanced at Sumo and the others, then glanced at the dilapidated No. 5 martial arts field and said, this place needs to be repaired. We will continue tomorrow. Yes. Bai Yuesheng and the blacksmith nodded. Guanxiong, Sumo's combat strength shouldn't be a problem. Once he uses the puppet, he will definitely win. You need to work harder. You don't have to be beaten up today. Go back and think about it. See if you can withstand 10 attacks from old Bai, Miao Long Er said to Guanxiong. And Guanxiong nodded. He felt lucky and depressed at the same time. He was glad that he didn't have to be beaten up today, but he was depressed that Sumo's strength had increased tremendously with the god-burying puppet. No matter who the Lady of the Northern Chill City sent as the third fighter, Guanxiong would be the weakest. However, Guanxiong's goal was to win. The crowd dispersed. Sumo and Guanxiong hurried back to the Reflection Temple. On the way, Guanxiong asked Sumo where she had gotten the Mu Wang puppet, and Sumo didn't hide it from him. However, Guanxiong had never been to the Pavilion of Living in the Ghost City, so he couldn't tell her anything. However, Sumo didn't mention Yi Wuhui. If Guanxiong knew that Sumo had a top grand cultivator at the Immortal Realm behind her, What would he think? The two of them returned to the reflection temple. Guan Xiong was depressed, so he went back to his room to study his spells and see how he could be beaten up the next day. Meanwhile, Sumo had something on her mind, so she hurried back to her room to study it. So, the two of them went back to their rooms. Putting Guan Xiong aside, Sumo went back to her room and summoned the Mu Wang puppet again. Now, as long as Sumo thought about it, the puppet would act immediately. She and the puppet were almost in perfect harmony. Sumo didn't need to use the ancient mortal fan anymore. This was a great thing for Sumo. The puppet stood in front of Sumo, and Sumo observed it carefully. From the outside, it still looked like the Mu Wang puppet from before. However, Sumo knew that the skeleton of this puppet was the golden skeleton from Silent Death Valley. But why would these two skeletons resonate and fuse? Sumo naturally didn't think that it was because of the phantom technique. The phantom technique at most had a catalyzing effect. The biggest possibility was that the Mu Wang puppet and the golden skeleton had some kind of connection. Since the Mu Wang puppet was like this, would the other two puppets, Tao Yao in life and death, be the same? Thinking of this, Sumo laid down a barrier and released the little white pig at the same time. Sumo thought about it and released the two puppets, Tao Yao in life and death. The two purple robes emitted a faint purple light. Then, Sumo summoned another golden skeleton. There were a total of 18 skeletons on Sumo's body. From the 64th to the 81st, the last 9 golden skeletons were the ones that could truly be called golden skeletons. Now, one of them had already fused with the Mu Wang puppet, so there were 8 golden skeletons left. However, when Sumo summoned the first golden skeleton and placed it between Tao Yao and life and death, there was no reaction. Sumo frowned slightly, but he wasn't in a hurry. He summoned the second golden skeleton, but the result was the same as before. Thus, Sumo summoned all the golden skeletons one by one. In the end, all 8 skeletons were summoned, but they still didn't resonate. Could it be that these two puppets' levels were too low? Sumo summoned the other 9 white skeletons that didn't emit golden light, but they also didn't resonate with Tao Yao in life and death. At this time, the room was filled with skeletons and puppet. The little white pig tilted its head and looked at Sumo, as if it didn't understand why its master summoned these skeletons and arranged them in a row. They even had to stand next to the 2 purple-robed puppet. Could it be that they were going to rehearse the formation? Or were Tao Yao and life and death puppets going to be team leaders? However, the little white pig quickly rejected this idea. This was because, with a thought from Sumo, the Mu Wang puppet had already raised its hand, and the sword in its hand had already appeared. In fact, it wasn't a real sword, but a kind of technique. The Mu Wang sword, the invisible sword, the sword of the king. Resonance should require pressure. Sumo recalled the situation when the Mu Wang puppet resonated with the golden skeletons and came to this conclusion. Chi. At this time, the Mu Wang puppet had raised its sword aura to an extreme, but it didn't release it. However, the deity-bearing level power was enough to imitate the blacksmith's punch. Then, the sword pointed at Tao Yao and life and death puppet. At the same time, Sumo kept changing the combination of Tao Yao, life and death puppets, and skeletons. Buzz. Finally, when the sword light pointed at a pair, a golden skeleton resonated with the life and death puppet. Sumo was instantly overjoyed, while the little white pig was dumbfounded. Chapter 331. Resonance. Buzz. As the life and death puppet resonated with one of the golden skeletons, the other golden skeleton also resonated with Peach Heaven's puppet. However, the resonance between Peach Heaven's puppet and the golden skeleton was not as strong as that of King Mu's puppet and the life and death puppet. There seemed to be a slight difference between the 3 puppets. However, what he saw was enough to make Sumo ecstatic, because that very likely meant that Sumo could fuse them together. That way, Sumo would have 3 god-bearing puppets. 3 god-burying puppets. Just thinking about it made Suemo a little excited. If he could control 3 god-burying puppets, the Dongfang clan would not be able to do anything to him. However, Sumo looked at the room full of puppets and shook his head. He first put the other skeletons into his storage pouch, which was actually a tattered cloth bag. In the end, only King Mu's puppet, the life and death puppet, Peach Heaven, and the 2 golden skeletons that resonated with him were left. The room in the Reflection Temple was not small, and there was space for merging puppets. However, it would cause too much of a commotion if he were to merge puppets here. It should be noted that the energy fluctuations from King Mu's puppet's fusion at the 5th training field had almost rushed out of the boundary. Therefore, he could not merge them here. Northern Chill City. Suemo considered whether he should go find Guanxiong now and open up another training field. At the same time, Sumo did not know if he would attract trouble if he had 3 god-burying puppets. After all, Northern Chill City was too mysterious. Many things were still unknown to Sumo. Besides, he owed the Northern Chill City too many favors. However, Sumo still wanted to merge the other 2 puppets as soon as possible. For a moment, Sumo was a little hesitant. Humph! At the side, the little white pig stared at the puppets and skeletons with its round eyes, then looked at Suemo. It seemed to have understood something. Humph! The little white pig signaled to Sumo. We can't fuse them now. The place isn't suitable. Sumo understood what the little white pig was asking. She said helplessly, Humph! I don't want too many people to know that I have 3 god-burying puppets. Humph! The little white pig tilted its head as if it was unhappy that it couldn't fuse. If only there was a quiet place where I wouldn't disturb others, Sumo said to herself. Humph! At this moment, the little white pig's eyes lit up and it growled at Sumo. Huh! Sumo was stunned. You have a place? The little white pig nodded repeatedly, looking very excited. Humph! This is the Northern Chill City. How did you find this place? We are guests here. You can't run around, or else it's not appropriate, Sumo said. Humph! The little white pig snorted discontentedly and shook its head. Not in the Northern Chill City? Sumo said. The little white pig nodded. Hee hee. Sumo couldn't help but laugh. Humph, if I leave the Northern Chill City to fuse with the puppet, I might as well find a suitable place to fuse with them in the Northern Chill City. The Northern Chill City is heavily guarded. If I leave the city, people will know. It's not good. In fact, it's not necessary. Guanxiong and the young lady can be trusted. I don't want to trouble them too much. Humph! The little white pig nodded and then shook its head. Obviously, it knew what Sumo was thinking, but it didn't need to leave the Northern Chill City. Sumo's interest was piqued. Humph! The little white pig was suddenly very excited. It raised its front hoof and pointed at Sumo, then at itself. I'll go with you. Sumo nodded. The little white pig was so happy that it twisted its butt on the spot and did a somersault. Sumo was a little confused. Wasn't this little guy just looking for a place to fuse with the puppets? Why was it so happy? Sumo was looking forward to where the little white pig would take him. However, Sumo soon knew the place. The little white pig looked back at Sumo and gestured for him to follow. Sumo nodded. The little white pig's eyes lit up and it suddenly jumped forward. That leap was at least 10 feet long, as if it had directly jumped to the middle of the room. Sumo hurried to catch up. However, as soon as it landed, it no longer saw the room in the Repent Temple. In an instant, Suemo seemed to understand. However, before it could think further, the little white pig had already jumped a second time. Sumo didn't dare to delay and hurried to catch up. He was afraid that if he couldn't keep up, he would be left behind by the little white pig. This was the footwork that the little white pig had taught him. Suemo was suddenly enlightened. Could it be that the little white pig wanted to bring him to the Soul Storage Altar Cave? But they were still in Northern Chill City a moment ago. This wasn't even the Bone Mainland. How could they reach the soul storage altar? The chaotic god's mainland and the bone mainland were thousands of miles apart. There was also an endless chasm between them. Sumo had come to the chaotic god's mainland with the help of the lotus throne that the white-haired granny had given him. Would the footwork that he had used to enter the soul storage altar still work? Sumo pondered, but he didn't slow down at all. Sumo had actually memorized the 49 steps a long time ago. It was just that Sumo couldn't use them freely. But it wasn't a problem for Sumo to keep up with the little white pig. The 49 steps, some long and some short, were dazzling to the eye. This time, the little white pig didn't deliberately slow down. If Sumo didn't know the footwork, it would have been difficult for him to keep up. One step, one scenery. Sumo still couldn't see the scenery clearly, but he could feel that he had walked a long distance with each step. In fact, that feeling couldn't even be described as far. Each step seemed to be a whole new world. That was because every time he landed, the energy was different. But this didn't give Sumo time to think. Whoosh, whoosh, as soon as the 49th step fell, the scenery in front of Sumo suddenly stopped. At that moment, a familiar yet strange feeling came over him. It was a huge cave with red stone walls. The whole cave was emitting a faint red light which was extremely soft. More than 10 feet away, there was a high platform with white jade step. At the same time, 49 red lights were hanging on both sides. The lights were curling up, and there was no light smoke. Everything was exactly the same as when Sumo first came here. Even Sumo was in a trance, as if he had never left here. Humph, humph. The little white pig was even more excited. It directly jumped and jumped in the cave, somersaulting in the air. After all, this was the real home of the dragon elephant soul-devouring beast. And at this time, Sumo's heart moved. Could it be that as long as I remember the 49 steps, I can return to the soul storage altar cave at any time and any place? If that was the case, it was simply too shocking. Because if that was the case, Sumo could come back at any time. It was equivalent to Sumo bringing a top cave with him. The soul storage altar cave, for Sumo, could almost be regarded as a treasure. There were still many unsolved mysteries here. Chapter 332. The Soul Storage Altar Cave Abode. Sumo felt like she was in a dream. As long as we remember that mysterious footwork, we can return here at any time? Sumo asked the little white pig expectantly. Humph. The little white pig nodded. I see. Doesn't that mean I can come and go as I please? Sumo was overjoyed. At the same time, she muttered, why didn't you say so earlier? Humph. The little white pig glared at Sumo and snorted. His meaning was clear. You are the master. I have been following you around, but you never said you wanted to come back. How dare you complain about me? Ha ha. It's good that you're back, it's good that you're back. Sumo also felt that complaining about a pig was too much. Thus, he casually threw out a high-quality medicinal pill and sent it directly into the little white pig's mouth. The little white pig ate the pill and smacked his lips, no longer bickering with Sumo. Sumo did not rush forward to check the situation of the soul storage altar. Instead, he sat cross-legged on the spot. Then, he summoned King Mu, the life and death puppet, the peach blossom puppet, and the 2 golden skeletons that could resonate. Just now, when he arrived, these things had automatically entered the tattered cloth bag. The soul storage altar cave abode was extremely spacious. This was the little white pig's territory. Of course, it could also be said to be Sumo's territory right now. Thus, Sumo had no qualms. This time, the first thing he wanted to do was merge the life and death puppet, the peach blossom puppet, and the 2 golden skeletons. Humph, you can walk around. I'll merge with the puppets first. Sumo called out to the little white pig, acting as if this was its original cave abode. Humph. The little white pig responded. Then, he leaped dozens of feet and left. Sumo understood that the little white pig must want to see the adult dragon elephant soul-devouring beast's skeleton first. Sumo didn't care about that. Her mind moved. Mu Wang's puppet immediately unleashed its sword light. The god-burying grade sword chi instantly erupted, pressing towards the life and death human puppet and the golden skeleton. Buzz buzz buzz, buzz buzz, the purple and golden lights rose again. The red light of the soul storage altar looked even more eerie. However, this time, Sumo had experience. The illusionary soul technique was instantly displayed. Fusion. Unlike the fusion with Mu Wang's puppet, the life and death puppet and the golden puppet did not fuse side by side. Instead, the life and death puppet abruptly tore apart in the middle. It was as if a crack had opened between the living and the dead. Then, a purple light in the shape of a human appeared from the crack. At that moment, it seemed as if another soul had temporarily left the puppet's body. As for the golden skeleton, it slowly entered the crack. Judging from the speed of fusion, it was slower than King Mu's puppet. After a full hour, the golden skeleton finally completely entered the life and death puppet's crack. The purple human figure that had been floating beside it finally returned to the life and death puppet's body. Finally, the crack gradually disappeared. The entire life and death puppet began to emit a faint purple and gold light. The fusion was complete? At the same time, Sumo heard two voices echoing. They belonged to two different people, but they seemed to have come from the same mouth. The two voices seemed to echo each other. Kakik, yin and yang have extremes, soulless and undaunted. Life and death are uncertain, how unwilling are you? Kakik, the two voices seemed to have come from an extremely ancient past. The voices were ethereal and vicissitudes of life. They were also somewhat eerie and strange. Sumo felt a chill in his heart when he heard them. Fortunately, the voices seemed to be lingering thoughts that did not dissipate. There was only one. After it disappeared, it became silent again. Whoosh whoosh. The shadows of two divine banners, one black and one white, appeared on the left and right sides of the life and death puppet. Yin and Yang Primal Chaos Banner. The white banner represented life, while the black banner represented death. However, Sumo did not recognize them. He could only instinctively feel that the two banners were extraordinary. At this moment, the life and death puppet stood side by side with King Mu's puppet. The two puppets both emitted the aura of a god-burying realm. Buzz buzz buzz, buzz buzz. The aura directly caused the peach blossom puppet and the golden skeleton to resonate. Although their resonance was not as strong as King Mu's and life and death puppets, they could still fuse. Fuse. Sumo made a hand seal, and the peach blossom puppet's fusion began. Its fusion was different from King Mu's and life and death puppets. The instant Sumo used the phantom soul technique. Whoosh, whoosh, the entire peach blossom puppet suddenly soared, and its purple robe seemed to be burning with thousands of flames. With a sizzling sound, the flames burned. However, the flames were black. At that moment, if not for the fact that Sumo did not feel any heat, he would have thought that the peach blossom puppet was burning endlessly. Actually, at this moment, Sumo did not understand. That was not fire, but the divine turtle black water. That was the bane of all divine trees. At the same time, within the black flames, Sumo saw an ancient tree. The ancient tree towered into the sky, its ends could not be seen, and its roots could not be seen. At that moment, Sumo was completely shocked. Was that a divine tree? It was simply boundless. When he looked again, the golden skeleton began to gradually merge with the black flames. Its speed was slightly faster than life and death puppets. Whoosh, 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 Sumo watched as the peach blossom puppet and the golden skeleton fused in the black flames. Just as they finished fusing, Sumo heard the sound of a swona, an extremely joyous swona, followed by the sound of gongs and drums. It was extremely festive. Sumo was stunned. Because it was clearly a song to welcome a bride. At that moment, within the gradually extinguishing black flames, Sumo saw a fiery red bridal sedan flash by. Ha 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 ha! Peach Blossom, was a bride before. A woman's voice sounded like she was laughing and crying. That voice made Sumo feel somewhat sad. These 3 puppets, where did they come from? Sumo decided, after the Undying Kingdom's matter, he must go to Ghost City's pavilion of all life. He must trace back to the source. Everything was definitely not a simple coincidence. Moreover, Sumo had 6 golden skeletons and 9 white skeletons. Could it be that all the skeletons had their own matching puppets? These puppets must have their own stories. Otherwise, Sumo should not have felt that unwillingness, that loneliness, that obsession. Sumo pondered. Whoosh, the last wisp of black flames on the Peach Blossom puppet disappeared. King Mu, Life and Death puppet, the 3 puppets, stood side by side in the soul-storing altar cave. They had all finished fusing. No soul, no path. If they really had a trace of spirituality left, they would be endlessly moved. One day they actually stood here. Between the worlds there were countless mysteries, who could see through life and death. Completing the fusion of the puppets also completed the main purpose of coming here. Sumo immediately stood up, wanting to go deeper into the cave to take a look. At this moment the little white pig came back, looking very excited. Humph humph. The little fellow even seemed to be dancing with joy. Sumo smiled. Seems like there really is a good thing. The soul-storing altar cave is indeed my blessed land. 8. Chapter 333. Humph. The little white pig was in front and Sumo was behind. Humph led Sumo around the high platform and the skeleton of the adult dragon elephant soul-eater beast, and went straight to the cave behind. Sumo remembered that there was an herb garden in the flower valley behind. In the past, he had obtained 1,000 safflower flowers in the herb garden. However, other than the 1,000 safflower flowers, all the plants in the flower valley seemed to have died at the same time. It was a flower valley filled with the aura of death. However, this time, before Sumo had completely entered the flower valley, he felt an extremely rich spiritual energy fluctuation. It was an aura completely different from the aura of death. Could it be? Sumo did not dare to imagine. At the same time, he had already followed the little white pig through the small path that connected the cave to the flower valley that was once filled with the aura of death. Humph! The excited little white pig almost flew over. The entire flower valley was full of business and immortal energy. What Sumo did not dare to imagine just now was actually true. The entire flower valley was revived for some unknown reason. The flower valley was no more than 100 feet in circumference, and it was filled with exotic flowers, rare plants, and immortal trees. Sumo remembered that almost all the plants were grayish-brown in color and did not have any luster. But now they were all alive. The place where Sumo had picked the 1,000 safflower flowers had grown many more. These 1,000 safflower flowers were pure wild plants. They were first-class medicinal herbs, but they were not considered to be of any use here. The entire flower valley was a herb garden. Other than the stone tables, stone benches, old houses and ancient wells, almost all kinds of immortal herbs were planted. This was a treasure trove. Sumo began to carefully observe the immortal herb. He had the inheritance of the wind wheel sect. Third senior brother Hua Kei was a master of medicine refinement, and second senior brother Du Shuxing was even more knowledgeable. Therefore, ordinary immortal herbs and immortal herbs were definitely not a problem for Sumo. However, Sumo could only identify 1/3 of the various plants in the flower valley. And within this 1/3 there were many conjectures. As for the remaining 2/3, Sumo could not even guess. He had never seen those flowers and trees before. The more you know about this world, the more ignorant you become. This was what Sumo was feeling at this moment. He had once been proud of the fact that he had inherited the Windwheel legacy and had learned from others. However, as he stood in this flower valley today, he was like a child looking at an unknown world. Indeed, the flower valley and herb garden inside the soul storage altar cave was like a paradise to Sumo. Taking a deep breath, Sumo felt that the surrounding spiritual energy was extremely dense. The spirit chi there was even denser than in Beihan City. Humph! At this time, the little white pig was staring at the bright red fruits on a small tree, drooling. However, it did not pluck it for itself. Instead, it looked at Sumo eagerly. She looked adorable and pitiful. Sigh. Humph, you've grown up and become sensible. Sumo sighed in her heart. That little guy was obviously asking for his permission, otherwise he wouldn't dare to eat it. Sumo did not recognize the bright red fruits, but there were dozens of them on that tree. Although Sumo knew that every plant and tree here was rare and precious, one or two more wouldn't make a difference. Besides, without the little white pig, Sumo did not know when he would be able to come back. Eat. At most 3, Sumo said. However, the little white pig was really obedient today. It squatted under the tree like a puppy, but it did not jump up to pluck the fruit. Instead, it stuck out its tongue and looked at Sumo. I'll give it to you. Okay, I'll pluck it for you. You're still pretending to be a dog? Sumo shook his head with a wry smile. Then, he raised one hand and plucked 3 red fruits from 10 feet away and threw them to the little white pig. Foodie! Don't eat 3. Sumo scolded with a smile. Humph! The little white pig nodded hurriedly. At the same time, the first red fruit had already entered his stomach. Sumo ignored it and went straight into the old house in the valley. In the beginning, he had also entered this old house. However, like the entire flower valley, that old house was filled with a deathly aura. Now, when Sumo came in again, it felt different. This stone house seemed to have revived because of the recovery of the valley. There seemed to be a faint brilliance flowing on the walls of the stone house. Although this old stone house was not big, and even extremely simple. In fact, it was just an empty stone house. There was a stone bed inside, and there was no other place to sit. However, in the middle of the house there was a stove, but there was no cooking utensils on it. Sumo looked carefully. He speculated that the owner of this immortal's cave used to refine pills here. However, the alchemy furnace was gone. Cultivation in the immortal's cave, refining pills in the flower valley. Sumo thought about the life of the owner of this immortal's cave. It seemed to be very comfortable. While Sumo was thinking in the old house, he heard a bang outside the house. Huh! Sumo was stunned and teleported out of the old house. However, when Sumo saw the scene, he did not know whether to laugh or cry. He saw that the little white pig was lying next to the ancient well, covered with dust. Its pair of big watery eyes were about to cry, and it looked very pitiful. At the corner of its mouth there were a few red fruit residue. Just now, it seemed that some kind of force directly threw the little white pig over. What happened? Sumo asked with a smile. Humph! The little white pig looked aggrieved. Then, it pointed at the red fruit tree and then pointed at itself. It seemed to be mumbling for a long time. Huh! Sumo understood and could not help but be surprised. Humph, you mean you wanted to pick another red fruit just now, but in the end you threw it out? Humph! The little white pig frowned hard and nodded. Sumo looked at the little white pig and understood. Just now, he said that the little white pig was sensible and would not pick the fruit on its own. It turned out that it was not the case at all. It seemed that the little white pig knew that it could not pick the fruit on its own. Otherwise, it would have eaten it just now. No wonder this fellow went back to call for it. Later, it must have seen how easily Sumo picked the fruit. In addition, it had just eaten the fruit, so it could not resist the temptation. Therefore, it wanted to pick one for itself, but in the end, it was thrown out. This tree, it was so powerful. Therefore, Sumo concentrated. Sure enough, he caught a trace of extremely subtle fluctuations on the immortal grass and spirit tree. It seemed to be a very special kind of protection. However, that kind of protection was not aimed at Sumo at all. Interesting. Sumo raised her hand and picked another red fruit. She smiled and threw it to the little white pig. Be good. If you are obedient, you will eat the fruit in the future. This is really the last one. Humph. The little white pig nodded repeatedly. Sumo smiled. He felt that this soul storage altar was really good. All of this belonged to him now. He wondered how many peerless elixirs this valley could produce. Therefore, he decided not to return to Northern Chill City for the time being. However, he could send the little white pig back to Northern Chill City to leave a message or deliver a letter. Otherwise, if he disappeared without a trace, Guan Xiong and Miao Long would think that something had happened to him or that he had left without saying goodbye. With this soul storage treasure, Sumo wanted to break through to the undead realm here. Chapter 334. The little white pig looked very satisfied after eating the 4 red fruit. Sumo looked at the little white pig and asked, "Humph, can you still go back to the Northern Chill City?" "Humph." The little white pig first nodded, then shook its head violently. Sumo was amused. "Don't worry. I just told you to go back and send a message, and then come back. I didn't tell you not to come back." When the little white pig heard this, it was as if a heavy burden had been lifted from its shoulders. Now, everything in the Flower Valley had recovered. He didn't want to give up the delicious food. How could the outside world compare to this place? There was food and water here, and it was his home. Wonderful. Carefree. So, Sumo took out a jade slip and left a message with his divine sense. It was for Guan Xiong. He said that he would find a place to cultivate in seclusion, and that he would definitely participate in the battle of the undying nation. Then, he gave the jade slip to the little white pig. "Humph, go back to the Northern Chill City now, give this to Guan Xiong, and then come back." "Humph." The little white pig nodded and swallowed the jade slip. It didn't stop and flew to the cave in front. It seemed that it needed to go to the entrance of the cave in front to get out. Sumo didn't care about it. Although Humph was a bit naughty and gluttonous, he was absolutely reliable, so Sumo was not worried. The little white pig left. Sumo looked around the Flower Valley alone, then his eyes fell on the old well. He walked closer and looked down. The old well that had dried up was now full of ripples and spiritual chi. Sumo patted his storage bag, took out a jade bowl, and put it into the well to draw water. In a blink, Sumo was holding the jade bowl in his hand. The well wasn't deep. The water in the jade bowl was extremely clear, but there was a hint of golden light. It looked a bit sticky, and at the same time, it was full of spiritual chi. It wasn't water. That was Sumo's first thought. Then, he sniffed and found that the water had a special and refreshing aroma. The aroma of wine. The aroma was similar to the wine of the white-haired granny that he had drunk in the nameless town on the Bone Continent. Sumo was a little scared when she thought of the 1,000 years of drunkenness. Therefore, he only took a sip of the well water. Hiss! That small amount of saliva actually made Sumo feel incomparably wonderful. Cool but not cold, pure but not greasy, fresh and refreshing. It was indeed well water, not wine, but the well water was simply too special. After taking a sip, Sumo felt the fragrance lingering in her mouth, and her whole body felt comfortable. After waiting for a while and feeling nothing, Sumo took a big gulp. Quench my thirst. Moreover, Sumo felt that the water was full of spiritual energy. This well water could definitely aid in cultivation. It seemed that this was an immortal well. However, Sumo didn't finish the whole bowl of water. With the rest of the water, Sumo raised her hand and watered the red fruit tree. In fact, it was only half a bowl of water. However, as soon as the water was watered, it instantly soaked into the ground. Sumo felt that the small tree was full of vitality, and there was even a new sprout on one of the branches. Amazing! Sumo was overjoyed. With this well, Everything in this flower valley seemed to be able to grow continuously. Wouldn't that mean that it was inexhaustible? Sumo controlled her emotions. Returning to the cave abode of the soul storage altar, everything happened too suddenly. Sumo didn't stay in the flower valley anymore, but went back the way he came. Just now, he didn't check the other things in the cave abode. The skeleton of the adult dragon elephant soul-devouring beast was still behind the high platform, exactly the same as before, without any changes. Sumo turned to the front of the high platform and walked up the stairs. On the long black table, the big blue urn was still there. The red muslin at the seal was still there, and the red mud seal was still there. The faint blue light was flowing. Many tadpole-like characters were still flowing like water. When he first entered the cave abode of the soul storage altar, Sumo was only a chi refinement cultivator. Now, Sumo was a peak deity tribulation cultivator. In fact, this level of cultivation was already very high. Sumo was no longer the same as before. However, when he stood in front of the blue urn, he felt almost the same as before. Lost, fearful, and puzzled. Sumo still couldn't understand the seal. On the black table, there were big red characters. Immortal bone, immortal soul, immortal reincarnation, immortal heart. There is no limit in the heavens, only a king in the mortal world. Sumo couldn't help but smile bitterly. He looked up at the 3 big black characters on the wall above the stone table, soul storage altar. Those characters weren't written by one person. Of course, Sumo knew that this high platform was the main body of the cave abode of the soul storage altar. However, even though he became a deity tribulation cultivator, he still couldn't understand it. Here, he was still like a lost child. Whoosh, Sumo took a deep breath. He sat cross-legged on the high platform and started cultivating. His goal was to reach the immortal state. When the little white pig came back, he started to make preparations. Inside the cave abode of the soul storage altar, there was no change of day and night. Sumo could only take out a special hourglass from his storage bag to measure time. The hourglass lasted for a full 25 days. After 25 days, he would return to the northern Chill City and then prepare to go to the capital of the Immortal Kingdom. Sumo sat cross-legged on the high platform and used the immortal art. Before reaching the immortal state, Sumo's immortal art was still at the immortal bone level. Therefore, Sumo also wanted to become an immortal cultivator as soon as possible and wanted to advance further. While Sumo was cultivating, the entire cave abode of the soul storage altar was extremely quiet. According to Sumo's calculation, about 4 hours had passed. Not far away, a beam of white light appeared and the little white pig appeared excitedly. Sumo opened his eyes and the little white pig had already flown over. "Did you deliver the jade slip?" Sumo asked. "Humph." The little white pig nodded and spat out another jade slip. Guan Xiong's voice was heard as soon as the jade slip appeared. "Little Su, did you go missing? You went into seclusion at this time. How did you get out of the northern Chill City without anyone noticing? The guards of the 4 gates didn't know you were out of the city. Lady Xiao couldn't sense your whereabouts either. Good brother, you'd better take me with you in the future. If you run away, Lady Xiao will be watching me every day. I think I'll be beaten every day." Guan Xiong's cry came from the jade slip. Sumo was speechless. This guy was too good at pretending. But then, Guan Xiong's voice returned to normal. "Sumo, it's your choice to cultivate wherever you want. Lady Xiao and I will support you and won't interfere. Cultivate well. We will win the battle of the Immortal Kingdom. Take care." Then, there was no more sound from the jade slip. Sumo heaved a sigh and felt a bit guilty. It was a bit abrupt for him to come to the soul altar. But this place was too special and he couldn't tell Guan Xiong and Lady Xiaomiao. After all, everyone had their own secret. But Guan Xiong and Lady Xiaomiao didn't blame him. They understood him. That made Sumo feel warm. "Humph, You didn't stay long in the northern chill city, right? Not more than an hour, right? Sumo asked. The little white pig nodded. It went to find Guan Xiong right after they arrived at the northern chill city. The teleportation jade slip only took a quarter of an hour. Sumo nodded. In this way, he estimated that it would take about 2 hours to get to the northern chill city from here. It would take some time to travel through space and time. Humph, we'll stay here for a while. Let's go to the Flower Valley first. I need to make elixirs. Then, I'll try to reach the undead realm. Sumo took the little white pig to the Flower Valley. At the same time, Sumo took out the broken copper bowl and turned it into the soul hiding cauldron. He remembered that the old house in the Flower Valley needed an elixir cauldron. 8. Chapter 335. Back Mountain, Flower Valley. Sumo brought the little white pig to the old house again and placed the soul depository cauldron on the stove. The soul depository cauldron could change its size at will. Therefore, it was suitable to be placed anywhere. At this time, it was only slightly bigger than its original state. Soul depository. Sumo looked at the 2 ancient characters on the cauldron and raised his eyebrows slightly. Soul depository, what does it mean? Is there any relationship between this small cauldron and this cave residence? Unfortunately, after the soul depository cauldron appeared, it did not seem to cause any resonance. Sumo also had no idea. After putting the soul depository cauldron away, Sumo poured out a purple pill from the storage bottle. It was the immortal pill that Yi Wuhui gave him. The immortal pill could increase the chance of breaking through the immortal realm by 30%. It was definitely a top-level pill, at least in the mortal realm. Back then, Yi Wuhui had promised Sumo to give him the opportunity to break through to the immortal realm. Unfortunately, the 3-inch puppet was still with Sumo and there was no news of Yi Wuhui. Sumo held the immortal pill in his hand and smiled bitterly. Miss Yi, it seems that I can only rely on myself to break through to the immortal realm. One day, I will give you the puppet and you will owe me a big favor. Sumo said to himself. The little white pig next to him stuck out its tongue and drooled. However, it also knew that Sumo did not intend to let it eat the pill. But the pill was too fragrant. It would not be satisfying if it did not drool. Sumo looked at the little white pig with disdain, and then shook his hand. The immortal pill was directly thrown into the soul depository cauldron. He wanted to use the soul depository cauldron to refine it again. Chi-chi-chi, chi-chi-chi. White mist rose and the purple pill tumbled endlessly in the soul depository cauldron. Hiss! The little white pig next to him enjoyed holding its nose. It was as if the medicinal fragrance in the air was enough for it to enjoy. However, from Sumo's point of view, there was no medicinal fragrance at all. This was because all of the white mist and fragrance were contained within the soul depository cauldron. None of it leaked out. The little white pig was a classic example of quenching thirst at the sight of plum blossoms. Fantasy type of enjoyment. Sumo was amused, but she ignored the little white pig. It could do whatever it wanted to do with it. Sumo watched as the immortal pill was refined. In theory, the soul depository cauldron should be able to double the efficacy of the immortal elixir. In other words, after eating the refined immortal elixir, Sumo's chances of advancing to the undead realm would directly increase to 60%. White mist shrouded the area, sealing the spiritual energy. Half an hour passed. This was a long time for the soul-hiding cauldron. This meant that it was not easy for the soul depository cauldron to refine top-grade elixirs. An hour later, the mist inside the soul depository cauldron gradually dispersed. When he looked again, he saw a purple medicinal pill that was slightly smaller than before resting in the soul depository cauldron. However, there was a trace of silver dark lines on the purple medicinal pill. Sumo picked up the immortal elixir with his fingers and looked at it carefully. He could not help but frown slightly. Because, according to Sumo's observation, the immortal elixir had only improved by 20%. This was 10% short of the 30% improvement he expected. It seemed that with the improvement of the quality of the medicinal pill, the blessing or the refining ability of the soul depository cauldron was also declining. However, this was also understandable. Yi Wuhui's immortal elixir should have been made by a peerless mighty figure. Its quality was already very high, and it was a bit difficult to improve it. 50%. Sumo could also accept it. Now, Sumo had an immortal elixir and a soul-preserving elixir. These were the medicinal pills needed to advance to the undead realm. Sumo also wanted to prepare 2 spirit explosion elixirs. The spirit explosion elixir, as the name suggested, was a medicinal pill that made one's spiritual energy burst out instantly. In fact, this was also the medicinal pill that many great cultivators chose to use when breaking through. However, it was too difficult to refine. It was not that the prescription was difficult to find, but that the medicinal ingredients were not easy to find. The spirit explosion elixir itself could not improve one's cultivation, but it could make the spiritual energy in one's body burst out instantly. Then, it could break through the barrier. The current Sumo was in the deity tribulation realm. In theory, with the immortal secret art that he cultivated, the spiritual energy was basically endless. Moreover, Sumo's Dansi was far beyond that of ordinary cultivators, enough to be comparable to the undead realm, so he probably did not need the spirit explosion elixir. However, Sumo still felt that it was better to be prepared. Previously, Sumo could not refine the spirit explosion elixir. Although he had the prescription, he was missing 2 main medicinal ingredients. However, now he found that there was one in the medicinal garden of the Flower Valley. The radish dragon's beard and the yellow jade flower were medicinal ingredients that could be encountered but not sought. Once, Sumo wandered on the White Bone continent for 100 years, but he did not find one. The spirit explosion elixir required a total of 37 medicinal ingredients to prepare. Sumo took them out one by one from the storage bag, and then went to the medicinal garden to pick the radish dragon's beard and the yellow jade flower. These 2 kinds of medicinal ingredients were the 2 rare ones that Sumo recognized in the flower garden. All the medicinal ingredients, Sumo prepared 2 sets. First, he put 1 set into the soul depository cauldron. With a sizzling sound, white mist rose. The soul depository cauldron was easy to refine elixirs. However, the situation of refining elixirs and refining elixirs with the soul depository cauldron were not exactly the same. When refining elixirs, the white mist of the soul depository cauldron would spread outwards, and it would not be confined within the cauldron. Humph! The little white pig had been by the side, happily absorbing the mist instead of fantasizing. Sumo was half lying on the stone bed, waiting for the elixir to be refined successfully. In less than an hour, there was a jingle in the soul depository cauldron. Sumo did not get up, but directly waved his hand. A fiery red elixir was now in his hand, a high-grade spirit explosion elixir. Sumo was very satisfied, and with another wave of his hand, another elixir was also thrown into the soul depository cauldron. Just like before, the white mist diffused, and the sacrificial refining began. At this time, the entire ancient house was somewhat dense with mist. The little white pig was still greedily absorbing the overflowing spiritual energy, and Sumo was still half lying on the stone bed. However, suddenly, Sumo's eyes moved. This was because he felt that through the white mist, something seemed to appear on the stone wall of the ancient house. Sumo sat up straight and at the same time, his eyes focused. And on the wall opposite him, there was a vague shadow of a person. That's right. That was really a shadow. As the mist in the ancient house gradually increased, the shadow also gradually became clearer, and it also had a hint of color. It was a woman dressed in red, a woman dressed in red who was sitting cross-legged. However, the shadow could only be seen as an outline. However, for some reason, the shadow in red gave Sumo a very special feeling. Familiar. Jingle. The second spirit explosion elixir in the soul depository cauldron was refined successfully. However, Sumo did not immediately take out the elixir. Humph, don't absorb the spiritual energy first. Sumo shouted softly. This gave the little white pig a fright. You can refine the elixir, and I can absorb the remaining spiritual energy, okay? This is too much. However, immediately, the little white pig also noticed the abnormality on the wall. Humph. Looking at the woman in red on the wall, the little white pig could not help but snort twice. That shadow was very strange. However, as the spiritual energy of the elixir dissipated, the shadow of the woman in red also gradually disappeared. Sumo raised his eyebrows, and a figure flashed across his mind, Mu Jinghong in red. Chapter 336. Red Shirt Mu Jinghong. At that moment, Sumo's soul trembled. Because the red shadow really looked like Mu Jinghong. Otherwise, why would he have a familiar feeling? Without hesitation, Sumo took out the spiritual explosion pill and threw a top-grade spirit stone into the soul depository cauldron. Chi-chi, chi-chi. The soul depository cauldron no longer needed to be nourished with spirit stones. This time, Sumo only wanted to test whether the shadows on the walls of the ancient house required the overflow of spiritual chi to appear. As soon as the top-grade spirit stone entered the soul depository cauldron, the entire ancient house was filled with spiritual energy and white mist. Sumo and the little white pig stared at the wall. Unfortunately, the top-grade spirit stone was refined into a nearly golden bead. Its energy did not increase, but it emitted a lot of white mist. However, the red shadow did not appear. Sumo raised an eyebrow. Not spiritual energy? Could it be the aura of alchemy? Sumo wondered what triggered the appearance of the red shadow on the wall. Thus, he threw more than a dozen herbs into the soul depository cauldron. Once again, he began to concoct pills. Of course, this time, he wasn't concocting a spirit explosion pill, but a relatively low-grade pill. Instantly, the white mist rose again and the fragrance filled the air. This time, the little white pig obediently did not absorb it. In fact, it did not like the fragrance of a low-grade pill. After throwing out the herbs, Sumo stared at the wall. In the white mist, the red shadow finally appeared again. Sumo was looking forward to it, hoping that the red shadow would change. However, it did not. Moreover, no matter how clear the shadow was, it was impossible to see its face. It was just a shadow, not a portrait. The red shadow on the wall was sitting cross-legged, motionless, as if it was cultivating. Could this woman be the owner of the soul depository cauldron? Humph, do you know whose shadow this is? Sumo turned to ask the little white pig. Is she the original owner of this cauldron? Humph. The little white pig widened its eyes and shook its head blankly. Because it didn't know either. The little guy was born in the skull of the adult dragon elephant soul-devouring beast. The memory inheritance in its mind was incomplete, so it didn't know who the owner of this cave mansion was. Sumo stared at the shadow on the wall. The more she looked at it, the more it looked like Mu Jinghong. When the fog dissipated, the shadow disappeared again. In the end, Sumo felt a sense of loss. After a while, he couldn't help but laugh. Could it be that he had developed an inner demon? Actually, a shadow, even if it was the shadow of a woman in red, how could they be sure that it was Mu Jinghong? Could it be that all the women in red were Mu Jinghong? Sumo mocked herself in her heart. However, that shadow really gave him a familiar feeling. No one could figure out who the red-clothed figure was. Sumo took a deep breath and put it aside for the time being. Then, he took out the pill from the soul depository cauldron. It was a nascent soul-level pill. In fact, if it was in the White Bone mainland, it would be considered a top-grade pill. However, the current Sumo didn't care about that kind of pill. He just casually refined it. So, he took out the pill and threw it to the little white pig. Humph! The little white pig's taste was now picky. However, it was better than nothing. It still swallowed the pill in one gulp. It just didn't chew it as well. Sumo didn't keep the soul depository cauldron immediately. He was preparing to refine more pills. First, there were enough medicinal ingredients in this flower valley. Second, he wanted to study the red-cloved figure. However, Sumo decided to focus on cultivation for the next few days. After all, the battle of the Undying Kingdom was the first problem he had to face. Now that the pills were ready, Sumo wanted to adjust himself to the best state, and then break through the Undying Realm in one go. So, Sumo released King Mu, Life and Death Man, and Tao Yao, the three puppets, just in case. Of course, there was also the little white pig. Finally, Sumo also released the black-feathered deity Hong. Anyway, the space of the cave was big enough. In this way, the little white pig wouldn't be too lonely and run around. In the following days, Sumo didn't do anything else. He was just a stealth cultivator. Most of the time, he was on the high platform in the front cave. The whole soul depository cauldron was full of spiritual energy. Sumo's cultivation speed here was almost several times faster than the outside world. The hourglass went down, and in the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. In this half a month, Sumo mainly cultivated the art of undying, and occasionally practiced other spells. Now, Sumo thought that his immortal bones were comparable to white skeletons. In fact, in the early stage of the Undying Realm, one would refine the immortal flesh and blood. After the middle stage, one could refine the immortal bones and turn them into immortal bones. However, Sumo's cultivation technique was special. Now his immortal bones had reached the middle stage of the Undying Realm, but his flesh and blood were not enough. This meant that once Sumo broke through the Undying Realm, then he would soon reach the middle stage of the Undying Realm. In fact, Sumo's cultivation speed was already heaven-defying. It should be noted that he had only reached the deity tribulation great circle for more than 20 days. Unless Sumo was drunk for 1,000 years, it was equivalent to him cultivating for less than 100 years and reaching the Undying Realm. Looking at the whole Pure Land, he was probably unique. On this day, Sumo adjusted everything to a peak state. His Dan-si was full and in a critical state. He could break through at any time. He called the little white pig and the black-feathered deity Hong and warned them not to run around. The little white pig had a look of understanding and nodded frequently. After all, most of the time, it was really the little white pig that guarded Sumo. The black-feathered deity Hong was a bit cold, but he also understood his master's meaning. Sumo placed the three puppets in different positions. In fact, the possibility of people coming to the soul depository cauldron to disturb Sumo's breakthrough was almost zero, but Sumo still arranged it out of habit. Then, he chose the Flower Valley as the place for his breakthrough. If it was in the front cave, Sumo always felt that the blue urn was too mysterious, and he also felt a bit pressured. Everything was ready. Sumo sat cross-legged in an open space outside the flower garden. He swallowed the soul protection pill first. After the pill's power spread a bit, Sumo directly swallowed the immortal pill and the spirit explosion pill together without hesitation. In fact, Sumo basically didn't need to eat the spirit explosion pill. He should have enough spirit chi. But Sumo was lucky. If it were any other cultivator in the northern Chill City, they wouldn't be so wasteful. The spirit explosion pill wasn't candy. It was an elixir that many grand cultivators didn't have. However, Sumo didn't care about that. He had plenty of elixirs. What he wanted was to succeed in one go without any accident. Whoosh, hua, hua. The moment the spirit explosion pill was swallowed, its power spread. Sumo's Dan-si suddenly soared. At that moment, it was like a tsunami. A golden whirlpool rose in the center of the Dan-si and then rolled out in all directions. The waves grew larger and larger, rising higher and higher. Whoosh, hua. The 9 Dragons deity platform in Sumo's Dan-si fluctuated. The azure skeleton that was sitting cross-legged suddenly emitted a brilliant azure light. The Dansi shook and the deity root glowed. The power of the 3 elixirs was almost exploding. At this moment, from the outside, Sumo's body also emitted a faint azure light and his flesh began to crack. It was like the earth after it had dried up. Rays of azure light shot out from the cracks. The first step to breaking through to the immortal state was to rebuild the flesh. The little white pig was stunned. It had never seen such a scene. Yu Hong looked calm, as if he had seen it before. So, the little white pig also pretended to be calm, otherwise it would be embarrassing. Inside the flower valley, azure light shot up to the sky. Chapter 337. Sumo, who was sitting cross-legged, was covered in green light. Inside the Pill Sea, hurricanes and huge waves swept everything. His spiritual power was already enough, and now that he ate the spirit explosion pill, it was even more powerful. The first step to breaking through to the undying realm was to reforge his body. Sumo's body had already begun to peel off. The peeling happened under the protection of the green light. His flesh cracked and fell off, but the scattering of the green light would instantly repair the peeled-off flesh. Therefore, it looked like the green light scattered from the cracks of the body, and then slowly devoured the whole body. From his head to his feet, streaks of green light gradually linked up into a single piece. In fact, at this time, except for Sumo's immortal bones and internal organs, everything else had been completely melted by his own spiritual power. It was actually very painful for ordinary cultivators to advance to this stage, because the spiritual power that melted the flesh would slightly erode the bones, and even invade the internal organs and divine sense. However, Sumo did not feel that at all. His immortal bones had already been forged. Spiritual power could not cause any damage to them. At the same time, the light from the soul protection pill completely protected his internal organs and divine sense. At this time, if the green light around his body was dispersed, then a strange scene would appear. A skeleton with internal organs and a brain was cultivating, and his pill sea was surging, and there was a small green skeleton immortal root on the 9 dragons immortal platform. Sumo's mind was focused. He could feel the changes in his body. At this time, he guided his spiritual power to flow around his body. After peeling off everything, he began to reforge his flesh. Chi-chi, chi-chi, the immortal bones made a hissing sound. This was the second step to breaking through to the undying realm. Break and rebuild. Of course, recasting was many times more difficult than peeling off. At this moment, the violent pill sea began to gradually calm down. Because the spiritual power had a channel to vent, they began to condense into flesh. This was the most energy-consuming part of the whole process. This time, it was from his feet to his head. Condensing every inch of skin actually consumed a lot of spiritual power. Some deity tribulation cultivators could not complete the final breakthrough because they often failed here. The spiritual power could not continue. This was because, as long as there was a gap of an inch of skin between them, the process would be considered a failure. However, Sumo's spiritual energy would only be excessive, not insufficient. The spiritual chi was like the sea, the waves surging. The unwithering art would almost never dry up during this kind of advancement. His body was being reforged, starting from the big toe of his left foot. This condensation process was extremely slow. After more than 2 hours, the 5 toes on Sumo's left foot finally showed some shape. The light receded a little, revealing half a foot that was emitting a faint green glow. Humph! The little white pig had been staring at Sumo. However, after such a long time, only half a foot was revealed. The little white pig suddenly felt bored. Thus, it could not help but let out a big yawn. This was too slow. The little guy looked at Yu Hong and blinked his big eyes, signaling with his eyes, "Big bird, I'm going to take a nap. Keep an eye on it." Yu Hong still looked at the little white pig coldly, basically not responding. The little white pig did not care about that. Anyway, it knew that the soul storage altar was absolutely safe. Except for him and Sumo, no one could enter. The little guy directly lay on the ground, then stretched out his wings under his ribs, and actually covered his eyes. It looked very cute but also very annoying. Hoo, puff, hoo, puff. After a few seconds, the little guy actually fell asleep. The feathers on He Yu Hong's neck trembled slightly, and his eyes showed infinite disdain. Fool, you're so careless. You can even fall asleep when Master is advancing. However, He Yu Hong did not bother to argue with it. It was conscientiously guarding the Dharma. Fortunately, the three puppets all stayed in their positions, not slacking off at all. In the blink of an eye, 3 days and 3 nights passed. Sumo's undying fleshly body was almost complete. All he needed was a head. The little white pig actually slept for 3 days and 3 nights. Humph! At this time, the little white pig finally opened his eyes. At that moment, the blue light on Sumo's head slowly dissipated. Covered in blue light, the flesh was being reforged. The spiritual energy in Sumo's Dan-si was still rippling, the medicinal power of the spirit explosion pill almost exhausted. However, Sumo's Dan-si was the same as before the body was reforged. It looked as if it had not consumed any energy. This was the power of the unwithering art. After half a day, Sumo's head was finally reforged. After the flesh was reforged, it was time to expand the immortal Dan-si. The size of Sumo's Dan-si was equivalent to an early-stage immortal realm cultivator. But in terms of nature, it was not immortal spiritual energy. In other words, Sumo's spiritual energy was still deity tribulation spiritual energy. On the 9 Dragons Heavens platform, the blue skull no longer emitted blue light. Sumo's hand seal changed. The unwithering art he cultivated had a method to expand the immortal Dan-si. This was also the last step to becoming an immortal realm cultivator. Break! Sumo shouted in his heart. Whoosh, whoosh. Following Sumo's hand seal, the originally calm Dan-si once again set off huge waves. But this time, the waves did not spread outwards layer by layer. Instead, a golden water droplet condensed from the skeleton immortal root. Ding-dong! The golden water droplet fell into the Dan-si, causing the Dan-si to gather from the outside. The golden water droplet was like a blazing sun, assimilating all the seawater that gathered. The most amazing thing was that the skeleton immortal root formed the same hand seal as Sumo's. The golden water droplet would appear every once in a while, and then drip into the Dan-si. Sumo was quite shocked. The immortal root produced metal, a characteristic of immortal realm cultivators. But the average immortal root could not produce more than 3 golden water droplets. These 3 golden water droplets could actually assimilate the entire Dan-si. But Sumo's skeleton immortal root had already condensed 9 drops. As the 9th golden water droplet dripped in, Sumo's Dan-si had already turned into a golden ocean. But his Dan-si had not yet been fully developed. Ding-dong! The 10th drop, the 11th drop, the 12th drop. At this time, the green skeleton began to change. The original green skeleton began to turn golden. Suemo gathered his spirit and chi, focusing his mind and calming his chi. In the end, there were a total of 36 drops. That was 12 times more than the average cultivator's advancement. When the 36th golden water droplet dripped into the Dan-si, Sumo's Dan-si instantly showed signs of collapsing. If the Dan-si had a shore, that shore would have already begun to collapse. The golden seawater surged into the distance, spreading endlessly. The entire Dan-si's water level began to drop, but the golden ocean began to expand. The power of immortality. At the same time, Sumo's flesh and immortal bones began to be infused with golden light. The skeleton immortal root had also completely turned golden. His entire body was a golden man. The little white pig looked at Sumo, his eyes emitting golden light. Ah! Sumo suddenly looked up to the sky and roared, his long hair flying. A golden light burst out from the top of his head, then instantly fell back to nourish Sumo's body. Immortal realm. Immortal early stage. Immortal middle stage. Sumo actually became a great cultivator of the immortal middle stage as soon as he stepped into the immortal realm. The surging immortal power instantly spread throughout the soul storage altar. Chapter 338. Mid-stage of the Undying Realm. As soon as Sumo stepped into the Undying Realm, she created the immortal golden body. It couldn't be said that Sumo hadn't hoped for this, but it still somewhat exceeded his expectations. Her Dan-si had almost doubled in size and turned completely golden. The skeleton on the Nine Dragons deity platform was also completely plated with a layer of gold. The immortal flesh and the immortal bone were the symbols of early stage and mid-stage Undying Realm cultivators. Now, Sumo had all of them. At this time, if she encountered the 3 Undying Realm cultivators from the Dongfang clan, Sumo could completely deal with them. Even if she didn't use the 3 soul-bearing puppets, she could still kill the 3 Undying Realm cultivators. After all, Dongfang Haoyue was only in the mid-stage of the Undying Realm at that time. The golden light on Sumo's body gradually faded, and she slowly stood up. The pressure of an Undying Realm cultivator was different. After Sumo's body was reforged, her entire temperament seemed to have changed. That kind of strength came from inside out. The Undying Realm was a top existence even in the chaotic gods continent. The so-called burying gods were rare, and the northern Chill City didn't belong to the Pure Land at all. As soon as the little white pig saw Sumo get up, it immediately cheered excitedly. Its silver wings fluttered and it jumped into Sumo's arms. Hum, hum, hum. The little white pig's voice was extremely excited, and it seemed to be a bit worried and coquettish. Hum hum. The little guy was crying tears of joy. The silver wings slightly opened and shook. The meaning was clear. Master, during the few days you were cultivating, I guarded you day and night, not daring to neglect you in the slightest. I was nervous and worried, hoping that you would break through the Undying Realm all the time. Now that you have broken through, I am so excited. Long live Master. The little white pig was too pretentious. There were tears of excitement in its eyes. Yu Hong couldn't bear to watch it anymore. Dragon elephant soul-devouring beast, that's enough. You are a disgrace to us divine beasts. You slept for 3 days and 3 nights, don't you know? Now he was trying to curry favor. Don't you just want Master to give you a few pills? Is it worth it? If Master were to give you a pill, then he would be blind. The black-winged god Hong was truly a righteous divine bird. He couldn't stand the shameless behavior of the little white pig. However, at that moment, Sumo patted the little white pig's butt and said with a smile, "Hee, you've worked hard. I'll bestow upon you 3 high-level soul transformation realm medicinal pills." Sumo did not hesitate either. With a wave of her hand, she gave the little white pig 3 high-level soul transformation immortal pills. One good thing about the little white pig was that it was not picky about the taste of pills of the same grade. It could digest any type of pill, and there had never been any side effects or indigestion. Slurp slurp. The little white pig would eat it, and he would even say, "Don't worry, I'm here for everything. Actually, I'm not doing this for the pill, but if you give me the pill and I don't eat it, then I'm not giving you face." The black-winged god Hong was so angry that he almost rolled his eyes. He was just a bird. If he were a person, he would definitely spit on the little white pig's face. He was simply ashamed to be associated with him. The black-winged god Hong coldly turned his face away and thought to himself, "Master, you're really blind. You've been tricked by a pig." "God Hong, you have a share too." As she spoke, Sumo also took out 3 soul transformation realm medicinal pills and gave them to him. The little white pig had already seen through the black-winged god Hong's intentions. At this moment, the little white pig looked at the black-winged god Hong provocatively. "If you have the ability, then don't take the pill. As a divine bird that was as noble as the phoenix, the black-winged god Hong actually had his own dignity. However, he glanced at the little white pig. Dracophant. Actually, you're just a pig. Do you think I'm stupid? I've guarded diligently for 3 days and 4 nights, why shouldn't I eat it? The black-winged god Hong opened his mouth and swallowed the 3 medicinal pills. Master is blind, so be it. At least you didn't treat me badly. The little white pig looked at the black-winged god Hong with disdain. If you have the ability, then don't eat it. Actually, you're also greedy for the medicinal pills. Why are you pretending to be cold? Aren't you just borrowing the light of my Dracophant soul-devouring beast? Black and swarthy, what black-winged god Hong? Actually, you're just a big crow. The 2 divine beasts silently cursed each other. Then, they communicated with each other with their eyes, as if they wanted to kill each other. However, in the end, the little white pig bowed first. Because the black-winged god Hong's eyes were a little too terrifying blood-red. It really couldn't defeat that black bird. Moreover, that black bird was given by Mu Jinghong. The little white pig understood that if they really fought, its master might even give it a few slaps. It wasn't worth it. Sumo naturally had no interest in the senseless fight between the 2 divine beasts. He first put away King Mu and the other 2 puppets, then went to the front cave to look at the hourglass. According to the hourglass, Sumo should have used about 4 days to advance this time. In other words, Sumo had already cultivated in the soul storage altar for 20 days. The sand in the hourglass could probably last for another 5 days. These 5 days were just right for Sumo to consolidate his realm. He was prepared to give Guan Xiong and Miss Miao a big surprise. Undying middle stage, Sumo had absolute confidence in defeating any undying perfect stage. If he relied on the 3 god-burying puppets, he even believed that he could fight against a god-burying cultivator. In short, Sumo was full of confidence. Humph! At this time, the little white pig jumped into the front cave, then naturally jumped into the skull of the adult Dracophant soul-devouring beast. That was the little white pig's little nest. The little white pig let out a big yawn. That guy actually wanted to sleep again. Other people's pets all grew up cultivating. Only the little white pig, Sumo felt that this guy slept until it grew up. Looking at the little white pig's peaceful appearance in the skull, Sumo felt a little emotional. These years, the little guy had suffered a little with her. This skull seemed to give Hung Hung a sense of security and warmth. Looking at the dozens of feet-long bone of the Dracophant soul-devouring beast, Sumo suddenly had a thought. Can I control this bone? If not in the past, but now that I have the cultivation of the undying middle stage, I can definitely give it a try. The skeleton technique and the phantom soul technique. Sumo's mouth curved. If I can control this bone, it will be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The little white pig can lie inside every day. Moreover, this adult Dracophant soul-devouring beast's combat power is probably above the golden skeleton. Thinking of this, Sumo did not hesitate and directly began to make hand seals. The skeleton technique was the most proficient among the many techniques that Sumo had. The power of immortality. Golden threads spread out from Sumo's fingertip. Chi-chi, chi-chi, Sumo's hands moved slightly. Each of the golden threads on her 10 fingers was connected to a part of the bone. Front claws, back claws, wings, giant tail, torso spine, skull. In an instant, Sumo completed the connection. Then, he moved his mind. Bone control. Sumo shouted in his mind. The power of immortality directly poured into the bone of the Dracophant soul-devouring beast. Chi-chi, a faint golden light gradually appeared on the bone. When Sumo saw this, a smile appeared on his face. He already had 50% confidence. Chapter 339. The golden light flickered and fluctuated slightly. The dragon elephant soul eater's skeleton seemed to have been injected with a new vitality. In an instant, the entire cave seemed to have a mysterious energy fluctuation. The dragon elephant soul eater seemed to be coming back to life. Crack, crack. Sumo activated the skeleton technique with all her might. The dragon elephant soul eater's skeleton finally began to move. The first thing Sumo activated was the front claw. The front claw slightly shrank. At this time, both front claws were connected by Sumo's immortal golden light. The front claw, then the back claw, then the torso. Crack, shrank, and gathered. The entire dragon elephant soul eater's skeleton began to revive. Under Sumo's immortal golden light, all parts of the skeleton glowed with golden light. Buzz, buzz. At the same time, all the bones were resonating. The little white pig, who was a bit drowsy in the skull, was no longer sleepy. It opened its eyes and was filled with shock. Humph. The little guy was both surprised and curious. At the same time, its eyes were filled with excitement. In fact, the little white pig had never seen this adult dracophant soul eater. From the moment it was born, it was in that skull. However, the little white pig felt very close to this adult dragon elephant soul eater's skeleton. Without a doubt, the little white pig was the offspring of this dragon elephant soul eater. However, the dragon elephant soul eater's inheritance method was a bit special. They were hermaphrodites, one life and one death. Therefore, the little white pig had never seen its mother or father. At this moment, the little white pig suddenly felt that the dragon elephant soul eater's skeleton was about to stand up bit by bit. Humph. The little white pig saw Sumo forming a hand seal. Could it be that Master could control this skeleton? The little white pig leaned on the edge of the skull and looked out. Crack, boom. Following Sumo's hand seal, the dozens of feet tall dragon elephant soul eater's skeleton finally rose up like a small hill. Fortunately, the soul storage altar cave abode was tall enough. Sumo's immortal energy continued to pour in. Skeleton technique. Sumo had to leave her own imprint on this skeleton. This way, he would be able to control it better in the future. Chi-Chi. The undying golden light allowed all the corpses to become one. At this moment, the skeleton of the dracophant soul-devouring beast stood up and was covered in golden light. The little white pig was at the top of the skull, as if he was the master of this skeleton. Who was Sumo's hand seal changed. The dracophant soul-devouring beast slightly spread its wings. At that moment, even the soul storage altar seemed a little small. In this form, the dracophant soul-devouring beast could not fully spread its wings here. It was much bigger than the little white pig. Back then, Sumo had seen crippled Longzi's white dragon. That guy also had a trace of dragon elephant bloodline, but compared to this dragon elephant soul-devouring beast, he paled in comparison. Humph! At this moment, the little white pig's eyes lit up in the dracophant soul-devouring beast's skull. Outside the cave, Yu Shenhong directly flew in. He sensed something unusual in the Flower Valley. A long cry like a phoenix but not. When Yu Shenhong saw the dracophant soul-devouring beast, he was instantly on guard. However, when he saw that it was Sumo controlling it, he stopped crying. When he looked again and saw that the little white pig was arrogantly inside the dracophant soul-devouring beast's skull, Yu Shenhong lost interest. Humph! However, the little white pig was a little arrogant. It looked as if he had become an adult. Roar, roar! The little white pig flapped its wings and circled around the skull, raising its head and roaring. However, that guy might not have reached the puberty stage yet, so its roar was not domineering enough. The roar did not match the image of the dracophant soul-devouring beast at all, it was even a little funny. Kiki. Yu Shenhong let out two strange laughs and swaggered away. The little white pig's face instantly darkened. Hee hee. Sumo looked at the little white pig's appearance and also felt funny. She thought to herself, does this guy think he is the pilot? Pilot? This concept suddenly flashed in Sumo's mind. In fact, that should be regarded as the memory of Sumo's previous life. It could be said to be a flash of inspiration. Can I really connect the little white pig with this dracophant soul-devouring beast? Can I really let the little white pig become the pilot of this Dracophant soul-devouring beast? Thinking of this, Sumo was slightly excited. The little white pig was now in an immature state. It was unknown how many elixirs that guy had eaten and how much soul chi it had devoured. However, it had only evolved a pair of wings. The little guy's current combat strength was too weak. It was at the level of soul transformation at most. However, once it could really control this adult Dracophant soul-devouring beast's skeleton. Although its combat strength would definitely not be comparable to a real adult beast, it could be similar. Letting the little white pig act as the skeleton's brain would be much more autonomous than controlling the puppet himself. Sumo's idea was very bold. However, he knew that it should have a certain degree of operability. Because he still had the Phantom Soul technique, he should be able to do it. Thinking of this, Sumo did not need to communicate with the little white pig. With that guy's personality, if he really used his will to drive this skeleton, he would probably be very smug. Who cares about Heiyu Shinhong in the future? Therefore, Sumo directly began to form a seal. Humph, open your sea of consciousness. Sumo shouted while forming a seal. He needed to establish a connection between the little white pig's divine soul and this skeleton. Humph. Although the little white pig did not know what Sumo was going to do, it had absolute trust in Sumo. Therefore, when Sumo's divine sense entered its sea of consciousness, it did not resist in the slightest. In fact, this was not the first time that the human and the beast had communicated with their divine senses. However, this time, Sumo pulled out several divine senses from the little white pig's sea of consciousness. Then, Sumo poured those divine senses into the Dracophant's skull. Phantom Soul! Sumo shouted softly. He also poured the little white pig's brand on the skull of the Dracophant soul-devouring beast and even created a soul for it. That soul was naturally the little white pig. At that moment, the little white pig's eyes suddenly lit up, because it suddenly felt as if it had another body. It and the skeleton were connected by blood, and their divine senses were one. The little white pig was charmingly naive and loved to eat and sleep. However, it was not stupid. Not only was it not stupid, but it was extremely intelligent. As one of the three divine beasts of the Pure Land, its bloodline was the purest. How could it be ordinary? The little fellow instantly understood Sumo's meaning. Therefore, it fully cooperated, and even took the initiative to perceive everything about the skeleton. In fact, they originally originated from one body. Everything Sumo did was nothing more than to let them reunite. Therefore, there were almost no obstacles. When the conditions were right, success was achieved. The golden light merged, and the divine senses were connected. The little white pig fell into the skull and roared to the sky. Roar, roar. This time, the Dracophant soul-devouring beast's skeleton did almost the same action as the little white pig. The roar echoed throughout the soul storage altar cave. That was the true voice of the Dracophant soul-devouring beast, shaking the heaven and earth. In the soul storage altar cave, the roar echoed endlessly. At that moment, it was as if the Dracophant soul-devouring beast had awakened. Chapter 340. Its roar shook the heavens. At that moment, the little white pig was truly domineering. At the same time, its mind moved. Turning around, the huge dragon elephant soul eater went straight to the back cave. The little guy wanted to go to the flower valley in the back mountain. There was a lot of space there. Roar, the little white pig roared as it walked. At this time, Blackwing Shinhong, who was resting in the flower valley, was already furious. It wasn't easy for them to calm down for a while. What was the little white pig trying to do? Show off. I will beat you to death. Black Feather Shinhong let out a fierce cry and soared into the sky. Whoosh, with a flap of its wings, it grew to several zhang in size. In an instant, the sky was filled with red light and murderous intent. The little white pig originally wanted to show off its might in front of Blackwing Shenhong. At this moment, although the dragon elephant soul eater was just a skeleton, its body was showing the true appearance of an adult. However, that was all an illusion. Its fangs were like pillars, its wings like clouds, and its tail was bigger than a ship. An adult dragon elephant soul eater was indeed majestic and domineering. It definitely lived up to its name as a divine beast. However, this guy's brain was that of a little white pig. Clang, clang. Blackwing Shenhong only grew to several zhang in size and hovered in the air. However, it felt that the little white pig was too cocky. Therefore, it kept roaring at the sky, the flames on its body crackling. That way, if you keep roaring, we will fight to the death. Huh! Originally, the little white pig wanted to show off. However, it did not expect Blackwing Shenhong to emit red light. It knew that it was a sign that Blackwing Shenhong was about to go berserk. Was it necessary? The little white pig felt wronged. At most, I am just making a ruckus. Could it be that the big crow really intends to fight a great battle with me? What if I kill you by accident? However, although the little white pig could freely control this skeleton, it understood that it was still a rookie. Although the big crow was not in its final form, it had experienced countless battles. Humph! Rude! No manners! Can I fight with you? The little white pig cursed in its heart. However, it immediately shut its mouth and stopped roaring. In an instant, it grew to a height of 4 to 5 feet. She was instantly adorable. Then, it turned around and looked at Sumo, who had just come out. Black Feather God Hong, you're bullying me. The little white pig didn't say it out loud, but that was what he meant. At this time, Heiyu Shenhong's anger had not subsided, and he was still hovering in the void. As soon as Sumo came out, she happened to see this scene. She couldn't help but look at Heiyu Hong, and her eyes flickered slightly. Heiyu Shenhong felt extremely sullen. Pighead, just you wait. Heiyu Shenhong obediently retracted his aura and returned to his normal state before landing in a corner of the Flower Valley. He didn't want to argue with the little white pig anymore. He felt that he was too inferior. I'm actually competing with a pig? Hee hee. Sumo laughed. In fact, his heart was like a mirror. But sometimes watching them fight was fun, that's all. The Dracophant soul-devouring beast and the little white pig could merge into one. The little white pig seemed to be a good pilot. This was definitely one of Sumo's top combat powers. God knows what would happen to the Dracophant soul-devouring beast when it went berserk. This was a pleasant surprise. Sumo didn't immediately put away the Dracophant soul-devouring beast's corpse. After all, the little white pig needed to familiarize itself with this body. The little white pig was obedient and didn't dare to provoke Heiyu Shenhong. If the big crow was angry, it might poke a few holes in its butt. Therefore, it was better to keep a low profile. In the blink of an eye, 5 days passed. The sand in the hourglass had completely leaked out. In these days, Sumo had been consolidating his cultivation. Little White Pig, on the other hand, was getting used to its own skeleton. Now, it could control the corpse with great agility, just like its own body. The hourglass had run out. Sumo should have returned to northern Chill City. In any case, now that he knew how to come back, he could come back at any time if he wanted to. This soul storage altar was already Sumo's cave abode. Now, the only flaw was that Sumo still couldn't go anywhere he wanted to go from the cave abode to. He and the little white pig could only go to the place where they first came in. In other words, this time, they would go back to the Reflection Temple in northern Chill City. If they wanted to go to the Undying Kingdom, they had to leave from northern Chill City. But Sumo could go back to the cave abode in the Undying Kingdom. Of course, if they went out again, they would still be in the Undying Kingdom. At least, that was the only way for now. So, Sumo packed everything. The Dracophant soul-devouring beast's corpse was also put into the ragged bag. A normal storage bag wouldn't be able to contain the corpse at all. Only the little white pig and Sumo moved together. They arrived at the place where they first entered the cave. Again, the little white pig was in front and Sumo was behind. The beast and the human moved almost at the same time. Whoosh, the scene in front of them changed. They had already disappeared from the cave abode. Even though Sumo had reached the midstage of the Undying Kingdom, he still couldn't see the changes clearly. However, he was once again sure that the footwork was an extremely powerful space magic art. One step, one time. It was hard to tell where the cave abode was, but it was definitely not what Sumo had thought. The cave abode was in the Bone Continent. Maybe Sumo should take a closer look next time. So, did the Flower Valley lead to other places? Sumo thought. He didn't stop walking, because that was what the little white pig had told him. If he took one wrong step, he wouldn't know where he would end up. Although Sumo had thought about whether he could stop at a certain point and see what time and space it was, but he didn't dare to take the risk. What if he fell into the lava if he stopped? Time and space kept changing as he thought. Sumo felt that he had arrived at the northern cold city in the blink of an eye. It had been less than 2 hours. The last step he took was in the room of the Reflection Temple. Phew! Sumo let out a sigh of relief and the little white pig jumped into the ragged bag. It could enter the nest in the skull of the dragon-elephant soul-eating beast. Sumo didn't care about it. He rested for a while and went out. It was late spring in the northern cold city. It was warm and comfortable inside the Reflection Temple. The place was full of life. Guan Xiong, I'm back! Sumo shouted. But no one responded. It seemed that Guan Xiong wasn't there. He was probably at the training ground. At that moment, a figure appeared in the void. Brother Su, you're finally back. That figure was the waiter who had fought with Sumo before. However, he was no longer dressed as a waiter. Instead, he had changed into a set of clothes and looked rather capable and experienced. It seemed that the waiter had become a manager. Oh, waiter. Sumo didn't know how to address him. She felt that the waiter was more natural. Why are you here? I was ordered to wait for you here. The waiter smiled and landed in the yard. Whose order? Where's Guan Xiong? Sumo felt that something might have changed. Otherwise, they wouldn't have sent someone to wait for her. Deputy Guan Xiong went to the kingdom of the undead with Lady Su yesterday, the waiter said. Gone? Why so early? Sumo asked. Early? The waiter shook his head with a wry smile. Brother Su, you're late. Chapter 341. Did I come back late? Sumo was taken aback. He had calculated the time to come back, so how could he be late? The waiter said, Little brother Su, according to the original agreement, today is the day of the 3 battles. Eldest Miss and Deputy Guan saw that you didn't come back, so they left first without waiting for you. The shopkeeper of the Divine Sword Pavilion and the shopkeeper of the Drunken Immortal Restaurant also came with them. They are basically at the Undead Great Circle. If you don't come back, one of them will fight for you. Huh! Sumo raised her eyebrows. Time difference? Sumo felt that it was very likely that there was a time difference. It was also possible that the flow of the hourglass in the soul-storing altar was slightly different from that in the Pure Land. Therefore, Sumo came back late. Little brother Su, if you go now, you might still be able to make it. The waiter didn't talk nonsense and took out a jade slip. This is the jade slip that Deputy Guan asked me to give you. He said that you can go to the capital of the Undead Kingdom according to the route in the jade slip. However, you don't need to worry. Our northern cold city will definitely win. The waiter handed the jade slip to Sumo. Good. Thank you, waiter. Let's talk later. Immediately, Sumo took the jade slip and flew out of the city. After Sumo left, the waiter scratched his head and said to himself, I'm probably mistaken. Little brother Su seems to be at the undead middle stage. How long has it been? Sumo left the city without any obstacles. Outside the northern cold city, Sumo directly took out her lotus throne. Sumo's lotus throne was different from Miao Long Er's. It was a white lotus throne that was given to him by the white-haired granny. Only one petal of the lotus throne was not a shadow, because that petal was given to him by the mute master. This lotus throne was not only a flying magic weapon, but also a defensive magic weapon. However, Sumo had only used it once, and that was when she traveled from the Bone Continent to the Chaotic Gods Continent. In the gutter, this lotus platform ensured Sumo's safety. Needless to say, its speed was incredible. Since the situation was urgent, Sumo sat on the lotus throne as soon as she left the northern Chill City. She flew at full speed toward the capital of the Undying Kingdom, according to the route on the Jade Slip. Sumo remembered that when she first came from Shilyong Prefecture, it took about 4 hours. This time, the trip to the Undying Kingdom should be even faster. In fact, a true lotus platform could complete spatial jumps and fly. Currently, Sumo's lotus throne was still comparable to Miao Longer's. However, Sumo didn't know that the current northern Chill City had already adjusted its orbit to be the same as the Pure Land world. Thus, when it came to utilizing the lotus platform, the route Jade Slip was equivalent to a navigation, so it wasn't a problem at all. Undead Kingdom, Biting Prefecture, Undead City. On this day, the atmosphere in Undead City was austere. The Undying City was the capital of the Undying Kingdom. On this day there was a huge battle. The Temple of Heavenly Speech was located at the center of the Undying City. In front of it, there was an extremely spacious plaza. The plaza was several times larger than the number 5 training field in northern Chill City. The entire Undead City was in an uproar, because a battle to the death like today had never happened in the Undying Nation before. Undying cultivators were the top existences in the Undying Kingdom. Or in other words, they were more of a strategic force. The Undying Kingdom was able to become the largest kingdom in the Chaotic Gods mainland because of the existence of these Undying Realm cultivators. Normally, they wouldn't even show their faces, let alone fight. To most cultivators in the Undying Kingdom, the Undying Kingdom was a legend. After all, the entire Undying Kingdom only had 2 Undying Realm cultivators. Perfected Undying Realm cultivators were considered ancestral masters in many sects and factions. How could a battle between ancestral masters be ordinary? Therefore, the streets of the Undying City were empty today. Almost all cultivators were gathered in front of the Temple of Heavenly Speech. There were people everywhere in the sky and on the ground. However, they were all cultivators, so there was order. There were 4 prefectures in the Undying Kingdom: Damin, Shilyong, Nanyue, and Biting. Naturally, their princesses were all here. This battle was related to the survival of the kingdom. They were all sitting on the north side of the plaza, with their backs against the Temple of Heavenly Speech. The one with the highest cultivation level among them was a mid-stage Undying Realm cultivator, the Biting Prefecture King. The others were all at the early stage Undying Realm. The 11 elders of the Undying Dynasty were also sitting on the side. However, their positions were slightly higher. The entire power of the Undying Kingdom was leaning towards the north. On the south side of the plaza, there were a total of 6 cultivators. There seemed to be a huge disparity in strength between the two sides. The cultivators of the northern Chill City were led by Guan Xiong. Miao Long was not among them. Apart from Guan Xiong, all the cultivators from the northern Chill City were at the perfected Undying Realm. The Undying Kingdom might be powerful and had a large number of people. After all, this was the home ground of the Undying Kingdom. However, the 5 perfected Undying Realm cultivators alone did not give the Undying Kingdom any advantage. That was because the entire Undying Kingdom only had 6 perfected Undying Realm cultivators. They were all elders of the Undying Dynasty. At this moment, the great elder of the Undying Kingdom, Qin Yui, narrowed his eyes. The northern Chill City is indeed powerful. These 5 perfected Undying Realm cultivators are definitely not their full strength. Zhong Yishan sighed. Of course, not only is it not their full strength, but it is also very likely to be the tip of the iceberg. The northern Chill City is too mysterious. If it weren't for Envoy Yi, we wouldn't have known about its existence. Fortunately, there are only 3 battles this time. Qin Yui nodded. Elder Zhong, are you sure you can defeat the opponents on the other side? 50%. Zhong Yishan smiled bitterly. When cultivators of the same level fight, it depends on their foundation, combat experience, and luck. It's hard to say who will win and who will lose. Elder Zhong, you should have no problem with these 3 things, Qin Yui said with a smile. He was clear about Zhong Yishan's strength. Even Qin Yui might not be able to defeat Zhong Yishan. Moreover, Zhong Yishan had the burial god behind him. Zhong Yishan smiled faintly and didn't say anything. Brother Zhong, the Heavenly Cloud Palace's old ancestor must have given you a sure kill method, right? Dongfang Fu asked with a smile. Haha. Same to you. Zhong Yishan didn't answer directly. He looked at Dongfang Fu and said, Brother Dongfang, we have to fight today. As long as we can fight for a while, we can leave the rest to Envoy Ye's people. Brother Zhong, don't worry, I understand. Dongfang Fu nodded. Today's battle will depend on the 2 elders. Qin Yui said, however, it seems that Envoy Ye's people haven't arrived yet. I wonder if there will be any unforeseen events? Great Elder, don't worry. Dongfang Fu said, my old ancestor and the Heavenly Cloud Palace's old ancestor are already in the Heavenly Speech Palace. If there are any problems, they won't just stand by and do nothing. After all, the Burial God Cultivator is the highest cultivation in the Chaotic God continent. I hope everything goes well. You should know that this time, we're not just betting on our own Tao, but also the fate of the entire Undying Kingdom. Qin Yui sighed. To bet, one had to think about the possibility of losing. Zhong Yishan and Dongfang Fu nodded silently and didn't say anything. Qin Yui was right. This time, although there were only 3 battles, the entire Undying Kingdom was at stake. Chapter 342. While they were talking, a purple light suddenly shone in the void. All the cultivators on the square couldn't help but look at it. Looking again, a purple figure directly landed on the side of the Undying Kingdom. The eyes of the elders of the Undying Kingdom slightly brightened. The people of the Corpse-less sect finally came. I am here to help the battle under the order of Envoy Yi. Greetings to the elders of the Undying Kingdom. The purple figure cupped his hands at Qin Yui and the others. His voice was slightly hoarse. But the hood covered his face, so his appearance couldn't be seen clearly. At this moment, if Sumo was here, he would be very familiar with the purple figure. Ghost Shadow, Mu Wang and the other puppets were all wearing the same purple clothes. When the purple figure appeared, the elders of the Undying Kingdom all let out a long breath. Because this not only meant that there was one more Undying Realm peak, it also meant that behind the Undying Kingdom stood the incomparably powerful and mysterious Corpse-less sect. That Envoy Yi didn't break his promise. At this moment it was already past the hour of the morning. This was the time that they had discussed with each other yesterday. Envoy Guan, can we start now? Our people are all here. The one who spoke on the side of the Undying Kingdom was Fangjing, who had sent the letter of challenge. Although he was also at the Undying Realm peak, and was one of the elders, he was usually very low-key. But this time, the communication with the northern Chill City was basically done by him. If it's convenient, we can wait for another hour. Guan Xiong looked at the sky and said casually. Okay. Guan Xiong's answer surprised Fangjing. Could it be that the other side still hasn't arrived? But since the other side had made a request, it was not too excessive, so Fangjing agreed. The other cultivators should also be here in half an hour. Fangjing returned to his side, reported the situation, and waited quietly. Old Bai, do you think Sumo will come? Guan Xiong raised his eyebrows. Actually, he was not worried that Sumo would lose if she didn't come, but Sumo didn't come back on time, so he was a bit worried. According to his understanding of Sumo, she would definitely not avoid the battle, so it was very likely that there was a problem. It's hard to say. Bai Yuesheng smiled faintly, however, it doesn't matter whether little brother Su comes or not. That Moze unique treasure is in his hands. Guan Xiong smiled. Yesterday, didn't the Undying Kingdom ask us if we brought that treasure? Fine, I won't bring it. Anyway, we won't lose, and even if we lose, we don't intend to admit it. Bai Yuesheng had a cunning look on his face, as expected of a businessman. Old Bai, you're being unreasonable, Guan Xiong said righteously. If we lose, we do have to hand over the treasures. After all, we've agreed that we can't go back on our word. And then? Bai Yuesheng sneered, looking as if he didn't know what was going on. Then, we will destroy the Undying Kingdom and snatch it back. Guan Xiong squinted his small eyes. That's unnecessary, Bai Yuesheng said. Eldest miss, that's my plan, Guan Xiong said casually. Huh? It should be so. The process is still necessary. Bai Yuesheng immediately smiled apologetically. Hee. Guan Xiong looked at Bai Yuesheng and said, Later, you can just treat me to a meal at the Drunken Immortal Inn. You said that eldest miss wanted to do unnecessary things, so let's forget about it. Okay. Bai Yuesheng hated himself for being so talkative and stopped talking. Guan Xiong, where's eldest miss? This time, it was a middle-aged man next to Guan Xiong who asked. The man had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. He had a dignified appearance, and his entire body was emitting an awe-inspiring aura. He was none other than the Northern Chill City's Sword Tower's Pavilion Master, Chen Jianfeng. Chen Jianfeng was known as the #1 expert below the Undying God Realm in Northern Chill City. He was also publicly recognized as someone who would ascend to the Undying God Realm in less than 10 years. He was Miao Long-er's first choice. Guan Xiong, Sumo, and Chen Jianfeng. This was the original arrangement of Northern Chill City. It didn't matter if they won or lost. It would be best if they won, but it didn't matter if they lost. That was why Miao Long-er sent Guan Xiong and even Sumo. In theory, neither of them had the possibility of winning against a Grand Circle Undead Realm expert. However, Miao Long-er wanted to force them to unleash their potential. Pavilion Master Chen. Guan Xiong and Chen Jianfeng's tone was obviously more serious. Eldest miss won't show herself for now, but she will protect us in secret. I heard that there are 2 Undying God Realm experts in the Heavenly Speech Palace. Eldest miss has already locked onto the Heavenly Speech Palace. Oh! Chen Jianfeng's lips curled up when he heard that. The other cultivators of Northern Chill City also smiled knowingly. Undying God Realm experts were nothing in front of eldest Mississippi. If they really fought, the 2 Undying Gods would probably be killed by Miao Long-er before they could even come out. 2 Undying God Realm experts are nothing to worry about. This time, it was a hunchbacked old man who spoke. He had white hair, a goatee, and a bulging back. He looked like he was in his 70s or 80s. In reality, cultivators who reached the Undying Realm were all 1,000-year-old or even 10,000-year-old monsters. After all, there was only one Sumo. The hunchbacked old man was the top alchemist of Northern Chill City's Elixir Pavilion. His surname was Gong Yang, and his first name was Kong. Gong Yang Kong wasn't just an alchemy master. He was also good at scheming. Old Kong, what do you mean? Guan Xiong asked. There's something strange about the cultivator in a purple robe who suddenly appeared. Gong Yang Kong stroked his goatee and turned around to look at a female cultivator next to him. Qing did you feel that? Qing was the only female cultivator in Guan Xiong's group. Gong Yang Qing was Gong Yang Kang's grandniece. She looked to be in her early 20s. She had the countenance of a flower and the face of the moon, and was extremely beautiful. But she was also a perfected undead state cultivator and a spirit cultivator. Spirit cultivators were known to be invincible among their peers. As a female cultivator, Gong Yangqing's level was second only to the city lord and Miao Long in the entire northern Chill City. That cultivator in a purple robe isn't human. Gong Yangqing frowned. My spirit mouse reacted. There's no sign of life on that cultivator. Everyone in northern Chill City knew that Gong Yangqing's spirit mouse could distinguish the level of cultivators and spirit beasts. Of course, it could also tell if a cultivator was a cultivator or not. Oh! Guan Xiong couldn't help but smile. A puppet? If he's a helper of the undead kingdom, things will get interesting when Sumo arrives. Let's see whose puppet is more powerful. Hee. A puppet? Guan Xiong had a smile on his face. He knew how powerful Sumo's puppet was. Not to mention that Su Mo had fused into a god-burying puppet at Training Arena 5 that day. When it came to puppets, Su Mo could crush them in seconds. The undead kingdom is betting the whole country against the strong. The mysterious cultivator in a purple robe is probably their trump card, Gong Yang Kong reminded them. Guan Xiong, don't forget. Among the infinite worlds, which force could play with puppets to the point of perfection and reach the pinnacle. So we have to be careful. Guan Xiong narrowed his eyes after hearing Gong Yang Kang's words. The others also understood Gong Yang Kang's words. The corpseless sect was playing with puppets. Smiley face, smiley face. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.